Recorded live.
Hi, everybody. It's August the 2nd, and tonight for our special guest speaker, we have the Constitution Man. Hi.
Hello.
Thank God I was.
Yeah, we had a hell of a time with the phones. That's the way it is. Got to be ready to rock and roll.
Well, are you ready to rock and roll?
We're ready.
Somebody start the music.
Okay. Well, it's my very great pleasure to be here and talk with you tonight. I always enjoy talking with you and your listeners. I'm trying to help as best I can.
And you always do. I appreciate it.
Well, I try. I really do try. I try hard. So anyway, I was thinking the major issues going on, probably we should start by just giving people a chance to enter some issues or questions that they may think are the most important that we should go over. I do want to try and cover tonight especially a lot on banks and foreclosures, because I know that these people are being totally victimized by these bankers. And we really need to address this. It's so important, I can't tell you. Because these bankers have no responsibility. They have no
conscience. They don't care.
Or human anything. They put people out on the street. Christmas time, they don't care. Them and their whole family. It's kind of important that we really get people highly knowledgeable and agitated and doing some action to put the heat on these bankers. We need people contacting congressmen, senators, and letting them understand that this is a plague. It's literally a cancer on our whole society, that it's going to shut down our society if we don't get some type of serious control or programming. And I think it's obvious that these bankers can't run their show. They have no moral integrity or responsibility. Like we saw the Chase Manhattan Bank, that gentleman, the CEO, didn't think nothing about blowing $5 billion. It was a tempest in a teapot, he called it. And I think $5 billion is a rather extensive amount of money. But they don't seem to have any value on that. But what that $5 billion also represents is a whole lot of people being thrown out on the street with no place to go and living out of their cars and living up under expressway overpasses. And this is just absolutely obscene that we would ever have this happening in America. And it's time we as a people stood up and put our foot down. Enough. So I want everybody to be highly motivated, highly trained. We can do any damn thing, sir. Yes, sir. We can run to the sun. And as always, I like to dedicate everything we do to the fine soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, Coast Guardsmen. We don't want to forget the nurses either. When you get all shot to pieces and you wake up, you're going to be looking at these gorgeous nurses that are going to be smiling and trying to get you on the straight and narrow. So we don't want to forget them. And a lot of those nurses got more traumatized than some of our most serious infantry, because they got to see these kids coming through their emergency room all shot to pieces, their faces blown off, arms and legs off, stuff like that. So I think, they were very brave, and they definitely had to hang tough. So we want to thank each and every one who had a hand and a part in being there in time of our country's great need. And so I thank all of you, each and every one. God bless you and keep you forever. And may your family never have to go through something like that. So I know it's...
Carl, don't forget the nurses that we rescued in the POW camps and how they were traumatized.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was there. I can tell you. And then they'd move the POWs right before we get a chance to rescue them. That really made us mad. We burned that town down to the ground when we found out they had took our POWs the day before and moved them. We were most upset. But God loved each and every one who did their duty to God and country. didn't run off and hide up in Canada or any other place. They did like their forefathers before them. They stood their ground for America, and I know a lot of people forgot about you out there, but we never forgot about you. And so we're thanking you right to this very day, 40-plus years later. God love you and keep you.
And God bless you.
Thank you, thank you. I think we were pretty wild and crazy and serious at the time.
Yeah,
wild and crazy guys. We were definitely wild and crazy guys. But anyway,
if anybody has a question, put your hand up. So get you in line here, star 8. And that'll
we
put
want
you in
to try and help as many of you as we can within reason. And unfortunately, we can't take a whole case and dissect it for the whole program. That's not going to work. So let's try and keep in mind what rationally we can do and what we can't do.
There's a question here from Mountain Dog. If you want to take it, it's she's asking he or she is asking which statute was it that got moved in the U.S. Code so no one can find it that said FRNs are not to be used to pay taxes.
Title 31, United States Code, Section 742. Title 31, United States Code, Section 742. It was moved to Title 31, Section 3124.
Title 31, Section 3000, what?
124. It was moved to the back of the book, in other words, so nobody would find it. To briefly go over that, Title 31, Section 742 said, except as otherwise provided by law, all stocks, bonds, treasury notes, and any other obligations of the United States are exempt from state, municipal, and local taxation. This exemption extends to every form of tax, which would require that either the obligations themselves or the interest thereon, or both, be considered directly or indirectly in the computation of the tax. See Memphis Bank versus State of Tennessee et al. Garner. That's a U.S. Supreme Court case which upheld Title 31, Section 742. Okay? Now, if you turn to Title 12, Section 411, it says that these Federal Reserve notes that you got in your pocket, these green little pieces of paper, are deemed to be obligations of the United States government. So for all practical purposes, these obligations of the United States are exempt from state, municipal, and local taxation. Now, if you figure out how they do the property tax, what happens is they take 3 comparables to your property, and they average a selling price or an appraisal price for those 3 properties. They come up with an average, okay, by adding up all the costs and dividing by 3, okay? They then turn around and do what is called a 50% amortization value determination. So let's say we took 3 comparable houses and they averaged out to be $100,000. So we would divide that by 2. That would be 50%. We would come up with a $50,000 value certain. We would then multiply it by so many percentage points that you personally voted and your family and your neighbors all voted for in the millage, okay? Usually it comes out around 13 to 15, 18%, something like that. They then multiply that percentage rate times the $50,000, okay, or the 50% amortization value, and that's how they come up with your property taxes. Now, did they use obligations of the United States government to figure the average? Yes, they sure did. They figured it in Federal Reserve notes, okay? Did they use percentage and interest thereon multiplied by that amount of Federal Reserve notes that were averaged? Yes, they did. So they violated both of the requirements in that code. So, is that property tax a lawful property tax? By law, it's in direct conflict with the United States Constitution. We know that when laws are in direct conflict with the United States Constitution, they're null and void of law. Who says so? The case of Marbury versus Madison. That's Marbury versus Madison, 5 U.S. 137, 1803. That case has never been overturned. It stands to this day. If you go to Shepard Citations and you look it up, you'll see hundreds of cases that came against it, but no case has ever overturned it. Now, that decision was given by the infamous Chief Judge John Marshall, the first Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, and he basically said anything in conflict with the United States Constitution is null and void of law. It bears no power to enforce, no obligation to obey. It purports to settle as if it never existed. Unconstitutionality dates from the enactment of such a law, not from the date I come to court and say, oh, by the way, that was unconstitutional from its inception. It was unconstitutional all by itself. Now, the reality is what they're doing is 100% wrong. They're doing it deliberately, and they're doing it to defraud you, and it's a fraud by silence. Now, if you feel spunky and you want to fight it out, we can show you and get you the documents and show you how to do it. But I want you to understand you're going to have to fight because these people are like junkies needing a fix, and they need money bad. And they are going to fight you tooth and nail, so you better be ready to fight them tooth and nail. But if they get the idea you're dead serious and you got this kind of ammunition in your kick, they probably will settle with you quietly out of court. And that's been my experience. And I can tell you everybody who was dead serious and went and did it has basically won their case. And usually they just leave you alone and they figure to go after the other 99 million that they can fleece. But you need to understand, you don't get that for nothing. You have to earn it. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Freedom is not free. And if you want to be free and fight this out, you have to have your ducks in a row. You have to have a serious attitude toward getting it done. And you got to be willing to fight. I hope that answers your question. If you do want more information about it, get a name to Angela, and we'll see about emailing you the file on that particular document, or you can go up on Angela's site, and she has it. It's the file is explaining Title 31, Section 742. And it'll tell you everything about it, just what I just told you. Okay?
Okay. Next in line.
All right. God love you, and good luck.
Rabbit Hole Central, go ahead. Did you have a question for Constitution Man? Hi, Paula.
Hey, Constitution Man, I want to thank you so much. You helped me and my husband, Joe Barton, and also Lindy Heiss in Oregon.
Okay. Well, I'm more than happy. I'm glad that Lindy Heiss got taken care of. I really am. She really was doing a good thing. Unfortunately, they didn't take it as a good thing, and they victimized her considerably. So
it has to do with the medical marijuana licenses for all the listeners.
They're not honoring the licenses. What's happening?
Right.
And I think that comes from the Attorney General Holder, who's basically taken the attitude that this is opening the door on the legalization of dope, quote unquote, and we're not going there, and you can get the license if you want. I think they're just using the lists of people to get the license as a list to go out and attack those people and mess with them. I have 7 cases going right now, and all 7 of them, they're not honoring the license. And I've actually had to tell prosecutors, if you're going to keep doing this, telling people that you're going to issue them a license, they paid for the license, they did what they believed was the lawful and proper thing, and they have the license, the permission. If you look up the word license, what it actually means is you're given permission to do something that would normally be unlawful. You see. Now, if you look in your Bible, it says very clearly that you have a right to purify your blood with herbs, okay? Now, that's the purest, biblical side of the thing, that you've always had this right, that it goes all the way back to, the pounding out of the Bible, okay, and the Ten Commandments. So, they're operating, again, in fraud, and they're given the illusion that they're going to issue a license. People are paying for a license. They're going out and getting the education to be able to do the thing, and now all of a sudden these people are being victimized. Their property is confiscated. They're being actually jailed, and we're having to bail them out of jail. We're having to actually prepare cases to go to trial on it, and this is not acceptable. And it's being done deliberate, and they're basically ignoring their own license. And at some point, I think we're going to have to start just basically suing for breach of contract or breach of promise. You promised if I sought the license and got the license that I would have the proper right and authority to do this medical practice, and now you're telling me, no, you're not going to honor it. So this is a serious problem.
That's what they're doing here in California. Is they're in Los Angeles County. They are saying that they're going to close down most of the dispensaries that they approved and just have a certain few. I think they're doing a mafia deal. You know, if you pay enough, they'll let you have the dispensary.
You know, there's probably some lascivious side of that too. There's probably some of that in there too. That if you, if you make your favorite uncle a party, we can work something out. But I tell you, the intent of the people was honorable. They went and got the license. Now, to prove that you did a crime, I have to prove, one, that you have an evil motive or intent to avoid a known duty or task under the law with a moral certainty. That's one of the prima facie things that a prosecutor has to prove a charge against you, okay? The reality is there's no way. There's no mens rea. There's no state of mind. There was none of this. You clearly knew or should have known you should have done this. And if you gone and got the license, you'd be totally legal. There'd be no problem. But you didn't do that. You see, I got the license, and then you're still victimizing me, you see. And that's what they did to Lindy Heiss. And they almost ruined her and her family, and this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Rod Class's people pointed out to us that in 1986, the possession of marijuana was repealed on the federal level. And we went back and looked at the statutes when we got busted. And if not with what the policeman hands you, but if you go into the law books, it actually said willfully and knowingly possessing with intent to distribute. So it's the intent. How do they tell your intent?
It's with the intent
and you've got an ounce pot. What's that?
It's the intent to distribute unlawfully, but you went and got a license.
Oh, we didn't have licenses. We're in New York, and we've always felt that the medical marijuana thing was a scam and a setup. So when Lindy came along, somebody said, okay, you guys, what are you going to do about this? Because we always said, watch out. $140 million went into California to pump up this medical marijuana thing.
Yeah, that sounds like part of the game, too. Yes.
Well, we used your paperwork. Joe felt that, he started this process in his early 20s. And he feels it's definite persecution. So he saw you lining it up, Marlbury versus Madison and Shuttleworth and bang like that. And we got felonies down to tickets. And now they've given us the police dash cam that is just so abusive.
Yeah,
thinking that we're going to just settle for suing the policeman. But when I heard the dash cam, I said, oh, my God, this isn't to protect the public. This is to train other cops how to bust and violate rights.
Right, exactly.
So you got to go after the prosecutor, the judge, and probably the county, whoever it is that's in charge of training people.
Well, you have to go after those that are doing the violations because they need to understand that the law was always meant to apply to all parties equally, and that that's why judges no longer have immunity from prosecution because of cases like Maine versus Thibodeau and Owens versus City of Independence. See, those cases came down in 1982, and what happened was the judges were denied due process of law, and the court said, hey, you violated this person's constitutional rights. This is clearly you knew or should have known when you did that you were committing a crime, okay? And that's the God's truth. Now, how does a learned judge, a jurist, doctor in law, turn around and totally violate all of Title 42 or Title 18 to violate somebody's constitutional rights and then claim that they were acting in good faith? Well, you weren't acting in good faith because you weren't honoring your oath of office. You were certainly not honoring the law that you swore to protect. And the reality is you couldn't have been acting in good faith. And if you look at Article 3, Clause 1 of the Constitution, it says judges of the Supreme Court and inferior court hold their office during good behavior. Now, how can they be in good behavior if they're breaking their oath of office and not honoring the Constitution and they're violating your rights? So, therefore, judicial immunity was denied. From 1982 on, it's been denied because clearly you knew or should have known you were injuring somebody, okay? And the reality of that is that how can you now claim a Juris Doctor that you didn't know? And ignorance of the law is not an excuse for me anyway. So how would it be an excuse for a learned judge, a doctor in law,
right,
to violate somebody's rights? So they have no immunity. They can be pursued legally and criminally. And the bottom line is people never really did much of that before, but now they're coming out in numbers too big to ignore, and they're going after the judges, and they're going after the officers, and they're going after these people who assume that they're above the law. Nobody is above the law. I know they get away with doing it. I know it's done all the time. You're preaching to the choir. This is my 44th year of doing this type of activity, and I know what you're saying. I've seen it happen myself too. But we're trying to put an effort to do the education and the training and the knowledge transfers to people so they can actually do something to defend against this.
Well, you're doing it, Constitution Man, because we've played your shows many times in New York, and we're starting to work it ourselves. The chief of police called up Joe and said he could go and pick up his car that only has sovereign license plates on it. And Joe said, well, I intend to continue using it, so tell your policeman to leave me alone. And the police chief, after arguing before Joe stood his ground, said okay. But now the standoff is that Joe doesn't want to pay the towing company, which,
tell Joe, I'd pay the towing company and get your car back and get back in business and operating, because he was helping people, right? The reality was...
No, when the policeman came, he's armed with all the paperwork.
Okay.
This is in Woodstock, so they like to be a little bit friendlier on the surface, but they're actually unlawful because he got 5 tickets. He told the towing company, you do not have my consent to tow the car.
So you're stealing.
And then two judges recused themselves from the case, saying that they saw Joe's TV show.
Yeah, they don't want to be sued.
Well, the judges might not want to be sued, but how can you have a police force running around? Who's watching them?
What is Joe's best service? Out in the public, taking care of business, getting things done, right? Isn't that right? So every day he goes without that vehicle and being able to get out and help the public and do things, that's a day he's not functioning in his best, shall we say, job title from God. You know what I'm saying? He's not functioning, okay? So what I would rather do is have him just go get the damn thing, pay the lousy $80 towing fee or whatever it was, get back in operation, get back to helping people, and when you do the lawsuit, we just add that onto the damages.
No, it's a lot more money here in New York.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
But I understand
I'm
what you're
looking
saying.
at what is your best profession?
Another
out
thing
helping
is
people, right?
Yeah, I understand where you're going, but you wanted to talk about foreclosures. I wanted to say also as a matter of publicity, because all these things ultimately are related. I find that as I go down to the courthouses and progress with the different paperwork, I try to get people on my side as I'm going along, including going into the banks. And one lady spent about 2 months hunting down a check for me, which she never could because that's a little too complicated about New York co-ops. But basically, the co-ops were securitizing the proprietary leases while the mortgage company was also securitizing it.
Yep.
So it comes sort of
that's why they had to destroy all of those notes, because then they could be busted for fraud, you see.
Exactly.
That's why they had to destroy them. That's why they had to come up with MERS as a way of cataloging them in a computerized system. That's why they did that, so they could securitize them over and over and over again.
Right.
But on top of that, there's a situation where they actually had you paying an indemnification fee to an insurance company that in case you didn't make your payments, they would be indemnified on an insurance policy also, and Countrywide was notorious for that. And they would have people paying an insurance claim policy so that if you defaulted on your note, the house would be paid off anyway. Well, they took that also. Then they turned around and wrote it off their taxes as a bad debt, and then they got to write that off their taxes and gain that, what they call unjust enrichment. And then on top of that, they want to foreclose on the house and take the property anyway and sell it.
Well, that's because they destroy the evidence. Because, when I was hitchhiking around because we didn't have the car, a real estate agent picked me up and I said, what's the foreclosure market like in Woodstock? And she said, well, actually, very few houses go to foreclosure, but they have a lot of short sales. Then I was on the sheriff's website because I wanted to prepare it to do some TV work, and I zoomed in on it, and I noticed the next day they took the sheriff's picture off, and they also had the whole foreclosure department, because it's almost like a place for hot merchandise.
Right.
And that link was broken. So I know they watched the sites that I'm watching.
Yeah. Oh, they know. They know it's coming. They do know it's coming, and it's coming. It should be interesting to see who comes first. I think though I'm not real confident that the government is going to come first, and you would think that the government would have the best interest in coming first. People don't realize that when people are foreclosed out of their house, almost always they never recover. I know this is hard for people to understand, but it's been my experience that when people are foreclosed out of their house, the shame, the degradation, it's like, why should I bother, piss on this? I'm just going to go, I'll go on welfare. And they sit on welfare and they fall into bad habits. Where normally these people would be willing to go out and work and hustle and try and stay in their house. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what
once
you're saying.
they're jammed, they cop an attitude, and it's like, well, listen, I'm not going to do nothing now. I'm just going to sit on welfare like everybody else, collect my dole, and, do whatever for the daytime for my entertainment or what have you, maybe take drugs, go drinking, whatever. You understand?
Yeah.
If they were busy working and going out and having to hustle and stay in their house, one, the house would be better protected. The bank would hire guards to protect it better. Second, the house is not going to be degenerating into a black mold fuzzball, that can't even be inhabited. Some of these bankers don't realize that when these houses sit vacant, there's no air exchange in them. There's nothing. And they get black mold in there. And I have actually been in houses where the whole four walls were covered with a black fuzz over 2 inches deep, you know what I'm saying? And when we got in there, the professional guy who was going to certify the house says, you have to get out of here now, get out of here now. This is life-threatening. He had put masks over our face. We ended up going outside. They sprayed our shoes down with bleach. You know what I'm saying? He says, this house is junk. You might as well bulldoze it. He says, this house will never be occupied again. Anybody trying to live in this house will die.
Wow.
And see, they don't understand when you leave a house vacant for a long time, it degenerates. And that's assuming that nobody breaks in and steals all the plumbing out of it, all the wiring out of it, the toilets, the sinks, the tubs, the radiators, the furnaces, you can go on and on and on.
Well, what do you think about San Bernardino with half the place in foreclosure where they really see it, unlike what I just described you, where it's so rare they kind of hide this, where the town wants to have eminent domain instead of having squatters going
Detroit has tried that stuff for years, and I just noticed they had a sale last week, and they were selling whole blocks of houses for $500 a pop. You could go in there and give them $500, and they would just dump it in your lap. It'd be yours, okay? And these were for a lot of them were for tax sales, because people just up and left the key in the door and walked away. And I'm telling you, you go down in some of these neighborhoods, and I mean, I've been in bombed out cities in a war zone that look better. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And this is a ridiculous state of affairs because the public is the poor people that are too poor to move out end up having to live in this slum, which ends up to be a crime-ridden, absolute, burned-out zoo, and the people that move out take the brains and the skills that they have with them, so there's a massive brain drain from the area. In other words, even if you wanted to set up a plant, even if you wanted to hire a couple of thousand people and put them back to work in a plant, they're gone. They're gone. Detroit at one time could build anything. They were the best in the world. They were the only one to actually take a car from first-line concept, mark on a draft, all the way to a finished roll off the line in under 18 months, ever in the history of the world. And the reality is if they had to do that today, they'd be screwed. There's no way General Motors, Chrysler, or Ford all put together could do it. They couldn't do it. It couldn't be done. And that happened in 1984. That was called the GM10 car, okay? And they couldn't do it again to save their life, okay? All of that talent, all of that work ethic, all of those people that were used to getting up at 10 after 6 in the morning and being at work by 7 and work until 3:30, 4 o'clock, gone. It's all gone. That work ethic, all that talent, all that, it split up and went 360 degrees all over the world, okay? So that whole town, I keep hearing these people saying, well, it's going to come back. It's going to come back. And I look at them, I say, sir, you don't understand. It's never coming back. You're a dreamer, and I appreciate your goodwill and your good intentions, but you need to understand they destroyed it. It's never going to come back to the way it was. You're never going to see factories like that working 3 shifts a day, 8, 10-hour shifts, with that kind of full employment, with that kind of money that's being brought into the community on a day-to-day basis. You're never going to see all the lights on at night again. It isn't going to happen. You're never going to see a city.
That might not be a bad thing if things decentralize and people are allowed to build their own cars, and all the monopolists that partly built that up too. There might be a transition.
We are about to have a major crisis in this country, and these people sit in Washington twiddling their thumbs and playing while Rome is burning, okay? They don't understand that these people that are being foreclosed on today are going to be an epidemic in a very short period of time. They are going to overwhelm the entire budget of any government anywhere because they can't possibly take on the debt load of all of these people that are going to come onto welfare now and not go to work, you see. So we're doing a double whammy. We're killing ourselves 3 different ways. We're killing ourselves economically, we're killing ourselves socially, we're killing ourselves basically in our lifestyle.
There's also wonderful cures coming about. There's
I would agree
energy
with you. There are people that are adapting.
Cancer with the cannabis oil.
I agree with you. There's a lot of people that are adapting, innovating, and improvising, and that's good. But right. I'm telling you, most people that go into a foreclosure program don't recover.
Right.
They just don't. They never get their work ethic back. They never get their attitude back. It's like, what's the use? You can't win. They'll screw you.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is avoid foreclosure and help these people.
Well, I'm trying. I'm really trying to help them avoid foreclosure, and I'm trying to get to. I call the government almost once a day and tell them, look, you don't understand. If this foreclosure epidemic keeps going the way it is, your whole society is going to come to a screeching halt. Your standard of living is not only part of it, but your whole cultural thing, your whole family thing. The families are being destroyed. People are living out in cardboard boxes and alleys and under overpasses and said, this is ridiculous. Nobody ever thought this would happen in America. I never thought I'd see guys standing on the street talking, willing to work for food, homeless,
Mm-hmm.
We never thought this would happen here. Now, the bottom line is it's not that these people are bad people. They're not bad. It's not that they don't want to work. A lot of them are willing to work. The problem is that they're being jammed into a situation where they have no control, and their only situation is to say, well, the hell with it. I'll go on welfare. I'll sit on welfare, and from now on, I don't do nothing. I don't give none of my talents. I don't give none of my anything. If I have to, I divorce my wife and leave her with 4 or 5 kids to raise. This is all ridiculous. This is the social.
That's what they do. Is they aim to break your spirit, to break you financially, to break you physically, mentally, every possible way they can.
Now, what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do about this? I mean,
our
government has got to come to the reality that we've got to fix this. It's got to be fixed. We can't have these bankers going out and blowing $5 billion on some gambling hat trick on commodities and then just blowing it off like it's just a tempest in a teapot. What's the big deal?
But I think it's like you said, Constitution Man, people are so filled with shame, we have to reach out and not say that just because our brother-in-law doesn't have a house and he's crashing on our sofa that he's the deadbeat. If we can talk to each other about what happened at the food pantry, I got over my own shame about my situation changing, And just to keep a stiff upper lip, I asked the lady to come on my TV show. And she came on my show when Raja, the forensic examiner, came up. And
he's really good, by the way. We need to tell everybody Raja's really good. He really is thorough.
Yeah.
Thorough.
No, so many cases turned around when they just got a glimmer of a forensic examination.
Exactly right.
So then
and then all of a sudden, thanks wanted to settle in the hallway, too.
Yeah. But
as they see what they're up against, they just come out in the hall, let's talk. And the judge actually will turn to the lawyers and say, I better not find one thing wrong with this foreclosure or you're going to be in deep trouble. And they just did that to one of the worst law firms in the city of Detroit, Trott and Trott. And they basically told them, I better not find one thing wrong with this foreclosure or you're going to be in deep doo-doo. Well, the whole thing was done 100% fraudulent. They lied every which way but loose.
So what did they do? Did they back off?
Well, we're getting them to back off hopefully this week. Hopefully we're going to get that woman's property back. By the way, that gal that we got on the radio and told everybody about, she's asked me to thank everybody for their kindness and their interest in helping her. She wanted me to thank them. She's still got her horses. They're still galloping and running strong. I was out there. I saw them this week.
Oh, wonderful. That's that case you were working on, right?
Yep. She's hanging tough. She is a fighter. She's unbelievable.
So public opinion.
She's a fighter, a serious fighter. And she's got the bank right by the throat, and there's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit filed, and we're going. We're not playing around. We're going all the way.
Is Raja working on that one?
Raja has done some of the paperwork, yes. And he was really thorough, very thorough.
Right.
And when we get to our final court date, because they've never really given her a final, serious, honest chance to present her case in chief, and everybody out there, I want to give you a case. It's called Haynes versus Kerner. Just go on Google, dial in Haynes versus Kerner, Kerner. The site is 404 US 519, but you don't really need that. It basically gives the opinion of the court, gives you the whole case, and basically it says it's not whether you're a learned attorney, well practiced and studied in the law. It's not whether you write magnificent legal papers and phenomenal legal prose and excellent legal syntax. The test is whether you got an opportunity to be heard and present your case in chief. And that means you get to get into court, tell your whole story, and then let the judge decide based on the facts and the merits of the case. And see, they don't want to give any of these people their chance to do that. They want this just to be taken as a landlord-tenant issue, and you don't pay your rent, therefore you're getting evicted. And that's all alone.
The guy at the pro se office tried to shake me down that way until I held my ground, and I said either honest service scared him or a forensic examination. All of a sudden he switched, and now he's on my side. I think they go, well, little lady, can you really handle this? Do you know? Of course,
are you willing
the
to go all the way? Are you willing to go all the way?
But when they see you are, they rally behind you. I think there will be a force of change.
I think they also are worried about some of these lawsuits turning into criminal indictments, because our governor here in Michigan just passed a law. It's a mortgage foreclosure law, that if you get caught doing any kind of fraud or bringing it to court, and even if the judges are involved and you can prove the judges were involved in the fraud, they can get 20 years to life. And I think that was a very important development that got to everybody. And now if they even remotely think they can be criminally charged, then they are going to be on their best behavior. What I like to do when I go in and I talk on behalf of the parties, I will tell them, well, Your Honor, I think you should read this attorney here for the plaintiff their rights. And he'll go, on what reason? I said, well, if they're going to commit a felony in this court, I think it's fair that they at least get read their rights under Miranda versus Arizona and Dickerson versus the United States. And that attorney, honest to God, I've had them slam the box on their briefcase and haul ass out of that court and not say one more word.
Wow.
So I don't play fair. I play to win. I said, if he's going to commit a felony in this open court, I think he ought to at least be read his Miranda rights. And the guy will go, Judge, and he'll go, okay, and that guy will close his case and haul ass out of that court. He won't let the door hit him in the ass, I'll tell you that. So they don't want to get indicted. They know they're doing fraud. It isn't even a guess. They know it. I'll tell you something else. A lot of these attorneys are buying up the debt for 10 cents on the dollar. They want to collect the other 90% on the dollar. They tell you that they're operating for the bank, but they're not. They're operating for their own law firm. They want to collect the other 90% on the debt. And that's what they're doing. So they'll tell you that they are the attorney for the bank. They're not. They're the attorney for themselves.
How do you call on that? How can you prove that?
Well,
we
serve them with interrogatories, and we get them to define what their interests are.
I see.
In discovery, that's what we do.
So in other words, you ask for the contract between them and the
bank. You want to see
your
contract? Yeah, where's the one that hired you to be the attorney for that bank?
And they can't produce it.
They can't produce it. And I'll tell you another secret. These banks can't produce the note, not even on the best day they ever lived. They had to get rid of all those notes so that they could do all of this computerized securitization. You see, when you go down to the airport and you put $10,000 in your flight bag and you try and get on that plane, there's going to be a little alarm that goes off, you understand? And then they're going to want to open up your bag and like, what do you got $10,000 in your bag for? And they say, well, how did you know that? And I said, well, them little wires that are inside the bills, we have a metal detector here, and if you go over a certain weight, it just puts the warning, open your bag, all right, and then they find it. But see, if I'm a banker, I can push a button on a computer through mirrors, and I can send that property all over the world to be securitized, got me? Then I can take the money and load that money up in a Swiss bank account, and you won't even find out about it. You see what I'm saying? And I can do all kind of wheeling and dealing and buying arms and dope and whatever, you understand?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the things that's going on with these foreclosed houses.
Well, see, a lot of people don't want to get anywhere near foreclosure here in New York because the money from abroad keeps coming in to keep the market up. So what they do is just like the hot potato effect, the people keep selling and selling, but they never foreclose. So when I went down there, I was just horrified. Yes. At the lack of due process, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Nope.
And, everyone along the line, their guys go down, but eventually, when you persist, you really feel people are behind you, and they're happy that you're standing up to it, and that's what they're wanting.
But understand, you're only one little person. I'm just one little person. We put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time. We're not God. There's thousands and thousands of the people out there that need assistance, but there's only one or two of us. And there's only 24 hours in a day, and we're already booked for 48 hours. So it's like you're forever caught, you see.
But each one that figures this out, I think, naturally becomes a teacher or is helped by you. It's we help others because you helped us.
Right, exactly.
And each one of them is going to help others.
I hope that happens. Two tell two and so on, just like that gum commercial.
Yeah.
We hope that happens and that everybody actually goes out and duplicates our effort. I love this one story where we helped this guy, and when he got in front of the judge, it was, good morning, Your Honor, may it please the court, I'm so-and-so, and I'm here in pro pure persona pursuant to Article 1, Section 13, Paragraph 5. I've appointed myself my own attorney, and I'm ready to proceed with my administrative and procedural matters. And at this time, Your Honor, may it please the court, I motion to quash, strike, dismiss the plaintiff's fraudulent and spurious complaint pursuant to Michigan Court Rule 2.116, Friends C, Friends 8, and I kindly collect my costs and fees for him to defend this patently fraudulent and spurious complaint. And the judge leaned back in his chair and he goes, there couldn't be two of them guys, you see. And the whole court busted out laughing. And he said, Mr. Prosecutor, have you seen these documents? And of course the prosecutor, oh, yes, Your Honor, we've seen these documents before. And he goes, we know exactly who produced these documents, Judge. And well, I'm going to have to let this guy go. You guys screwed up. You messed this case all up. Now I got to let him go. You go upstairs and type up one of them there nolo prosecutions and be back down here in 10 minutes. I'm dismissing everything. Well, when the guy comes back to jail, he's like Rocky, bump, ba-da-bump, ba-da-bump, ba-da-bump. We did it. So we did it. We damn sure did it. But the important thing to me is that the judge rolled back in his chair and says, there couldn't be two of them guys. Oh, yes, there could. There could be maybe 200. There could be 2,000. There could be 20,000.
Right. Right.
Now, that's what we need. I need everybody to go out and do the same thing I'm doing.
Right.
And now you actually see change coming about. You see officers actually turning around and telling people, hey, look, have a nice day. Think about slowing down. I'm going to let you off with a warning. Just get out of here and go on.
Right.
You're seeing actual officers stand up in court and apologize and say they made a mistake and they're withdrawing their ticket. I've actually seen that. That never happened before, folks. It just never happened. But it takes people who are committed and willing to do something, not just sit and cry in their beer.
Constitution man, one last thing. Have you heard of the teaching of the Musa, Meredith Quinn? He was a Native American Indian. He talked about the first law of the land versus the second law, which seems to me corporate law.
Yep.
And that in truth we're all Indians.
But see, Indians don't recognize corporate as
right.
an entity. They don't recognize that. It's not. See, they recognize you as an individual Indian brave, okay? You don't have the concept that you could actually take your name, put it into a living situation which could last forever, you see. And they don't believe in, they actually would laugh at the white man for trying to possess the land. He says, well, you might as well take a bucket and go out and stand in the middle of the Detroit River and try and collect all the water. I mean, it's like ridiculous. How do you possess the land? But they recognized that they had a responsibility to the land, and they recognized that they had a duty to keep the Mother Earth healthy and clean and balanced, you understand? And they had balance very much in their religious and spiritual situation. And we kind of laughed at them as just being dumb Indians. But let me tell you something, Indians were way ahead of us for a long time spiritually. They just didn't have a good immigration policy when we set foot on the Plymouth Rock, or we would have never landed on this continent, you see. But the bottom line is they were forgiving, and they gave us, and they befriended us, and we turned on them and cheated them, you see. And the reality is they're suffering even to this day now for some of that treatment, bad treatment. And we broke our word, and we did it over and over again. So we didn't act as good stewards, and we basically cheated them. And now we have to figure a way to balance that and get back what we stole literally from the Indians. And the classic example is there's an island here in the Detroit area called Harson's Island, and it's a phenomenally beautiful island. And of course, they have multi-million-dollar homes on it now, and it's a retreat area, literally a vacation, summertime picnic, party time, what have you. But see, that island still belongs to the Indians. It still belongs to the Indians, the Squirrel Island Indians. The guy who leased the property for 100 years, the guy by the name of Jacob Parsons, he never owned the land. But eventually, he got to sell it through his ancestors, under his estate, to the point where everybody bought into it, and now they have all their own estates and their rich, multi-million-dollar homes and businesses out there, you see. But that land actually belongs to the Indians, and they're in court right now trying to get it back, okay? But technically, nobody had no right to transfer that land to anybody. It was only leased to Jacob Parsons for 100 years, and the 100 years was up. And technically, the Indians are trying to come back and get their land now. You and I know, if you saw the place, you would know that it's as ritzy an area as anything out in L.A. or Hollywood or any of that. And the bottom line is they don't own it. The Indians still own it in Squirrel Island. So there's a lot of these kind of problems that are ongoing and that we're trying to fix. And I've actually talked to those Indians and offered my assistance to try and get their land back, or at least get something traded of value certain, because they could go out there and put up a casino and it would be just as big and nice as Las Vegas.
He said it was just a matter of the Indian waking up and knowing who he is, and that judges have understood this, but that because the Indians were in ignorance, they were divided up between the different religions. They just line them up, you be Catholic, you're Episcopalian, and they could never address the great creator spirit, which is...
Hey, can I ask a question?
They didn't stick together either. That's part of the problem. Yeah, go ahead and ask a question here, because we want to keep this thing rolling here.
Okay, yeah, great. This is kind of a maybe a simple question, I'm not sure, but what it indicates my ignorance about everything, but to what degree do statutes at large have legal status within the argumentation that might occur at court?
Well, there's a bunch of things that determine that. One of them is, are they recorded and are they published, okay?
Yeah, they are.
And two, another thing is, are they constitutional or are they in conflict or repugnancy? And a perfect example is this foreclosure law. because this foreclosure law is in direct conflict with the TARP Act. And the TARP Act is this fund. They passed this law to try and get people help on all these foreclosures. And they gave the banks a large sum of money to do this, literally a second bailout. This was called the Obama Fund. And they were giving people all this money to the banks if you will agree to do this TARP Act and help these people stay in their homes. Well, the bank turned around and said, okay, we'll do that. Just give us the money. So they took the money. And then they told people, hey, we'll help you. We'll help you stay in your house. Yeah, you can get a mortgage rehab on your mortgage. And then they promised faithfully to help. And then they let the time run out on their redemption period. But first, you have to voluntarily don't pay your mortgage for 3 months so that we can default you. Okay, and you did that. Well, then they turned around and told them, okay, we're going to help you. Any minute now, you're going to get a rehab on your mortgage. Then they never came through with the rehab, and then when they ran the redemption period out, they turned around and told the people, well, you didn't qualify anyway. And then they steal their property. And I'm telling you, I have cases where this is going on
Carl?
all the time.
Carl?
Go ahead.
This is an 1802 statute that's never been overturned and does have case law to support it.
Okay. Well, then that statute should stand. If it's
Right.
not in conflict with the Constitution, it's not null and void of law, and it has standing, and it's been published in the National Register, it should be viable. It should be citable, and you should be able to rely on it as what they call stare decisis, which means it has been decided.
Wait, say that again so I can quote it. Go ahead.
Stare decisis. Go look it up in Black's Law Dictionary. It's spelled S-T-A-R-A-E, stare decisis, D-E-C as in Charles, I-S-I-S, decisis.
Great.
What it
Thank
means
you so
is
much.
it has been decided. It has been decided, and it'll give you all kind of court case law on it. Another term you want to look up is res judicata. Res judicata. The body of the law has been named, okay? Res judicata, and the judges have said that's the law.
Great.
Now go in Black's Law Dictionary and look both of those terms up, and they'll have all kind of court cases that go along with it. And if you can show that your statute and their Supreme Court cases that you're going to rely on are actually supportable in logic, then you turn to a case called Flood versus Kuhn. K-U-H-N.
Wait, say that again.
Flood,
say that again.
F-L-O-O-D versus Kuhn, K-U-H-N. And you just go on Google and put in the case Flood versus Kuhn, and it'll come up, and you look up the term Flood versus Kuhn, and you'll see it says, once a case has been decided, and it is now stare decisis, you have a right to rely on that case for any and all cases that are similar in facts and standing, okay? So if you have an issue that's similar to that was been decided, and it goes by your statute, I would say your claim would be irrefutably just.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And then you want to push the case of Marbury versus Madison, 5 U.S. 137, 1803. Justice Marshall gave the opinion of the court. Anything in the laws or the Constitution, this is Article 6, Paragraph 2, is the supreme law of the land. Okay? The judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in conflict or repugnancy is null and void of law. He further went on to state, it bears no power to enforce and no obligation to obey. It purports to settle as if it never existed. Unconstitutionality dates from the enactment, not from the date I go to court and say, hey, that was unconstitutional. It was unconstitutional from its inception. No courts are bound to uphold it. No citizens are bound to obey it. That's where your issue and your argument and your stare decisis hold you as the winner.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Carl.
God love you and keep you, and keep pushing hard. The name of the game is I need everybody and his brother out there pushing as hard as they can. Because if we're going to overturn this and fix it, it's going to take all of us. Nobody's going to be a one single hero. It's going to take every one of us.
I agree, and I may have another question for you later, but I really agree with what you just said.
Now, we want to keep going here. We want to keep the program rolling. There's a lot of people who will be sitting on the line for long. We got to make sure we keep things flowing. We can't do a whole bunch of big, long cases. We got to do a whole bunch of little short punches.
I'm off. I'm off right now. So go ahead.
So let's go to the next. Okay. And I appreciate talking with that lady too from New York. She's right on.
Paula, she's still on there. Nobody has a question. Nobody's got their hand up at the moment.
Well, then we'll go back.
See if there's anything in in the chat here.
I also want to tell you a neat thing that we just found out, that a lot of these judges, interestingly enough, and I brought this up to a group of attorneys, and they thought I was a nutcase when I brought it up, but they don't think I'm a nutcase now, because they went out and they searched all the counties around Detroit, and they found out, hey, Carl, you were right, man. We went and checked all of these judges' financial records and what have you. They're getting multi-million-dollar mortgages from these banks, okay? You go on record, you check their financial status that they made their statement on when they ran for judgeship or what have you, and you start checking who gives them donations and what have you to operate, who gave them donations for their election campaign and what have you, and you start checking things out. You start finding out some of these judges have multi-million-dollar mortgages, and they don't have to pay them back. Now, what's the difference if I go hand you a bag of money in a parking lot, or I give you a big multi-million-dollar mortgage and you don't have to pay it back? Then you get into court and you go check out this judge's file, and he's sitting on the same case that's on your mortgage foreclosure case. You say, well, excuse me, Your Honor, may it please the court, I want to know if you have a financial interest in the outcome of this case. Well, he'll get offended, of course, at first. Isn't it a fact, sir, that you have a $2 million mortgage from this very bank that you're hearing this case on? Would it be impossible or improbable to say that you might be unduly influenced by that type of, shall we say, interest in the bank's financial what have you, where you have a multi-million-dollar mortgage? And let me ask you, sir, you have to pay that mortgage back, right? Oh, they don't like to go there. I'd ask you to step down, Your Honor, and recuse yourself from this case now. I brought this up to a group of attorneys, and they thought I was just, smoking some bad weed. And I said, no, you guys start checking it out. You're going to start finding out I'm right. And this one attorney turned to me and he says, my God, man, if you realize if you're right what that would mean. I said, oh, yeah. It would mean the courts are bought and paid for by the banks. He said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to have my research group go out. We'll pull every judge in 3 counties. And you know what? They were shocked when they came back with the research on all of their financial statements and found out that most of them were heavily indebted to banks. Heavily indebted to banks. Now, I wonder how many of those guys have to pay back those notes. None dare call it conspiracy, right? And I'm just a kook, right? And I just been smoking some wacko weed, huh? And I should quit smoking that stuff because it ain't no good for me, right? That one lawyer was absolutely in awe the next meeting we had. He says, you're incredible that you figured that out and that we checked it out. We're not slouches. We checked it out and we found out you were right. And now every time I go into court, I check that judge out and I find out before we go in. And if he's going to be the judge and he starts talking and doesn't even let the other attorney do the talking, excuse me, Your Honor, first of all, who is the attorney for the plaintiff in this case? Well, he is. Okay. And who is the judge of the court of record as the trier of fact? Well, I am. Well, Your Honor, if you're going to be the judge, I'd really appreciate the hell out of it if you just be the judge. And if he's the plaintiff's attorney, I'd really appreciate that you let him be the plaintiff's attorney. But if you're going to be the plaintiff's attorney and the judge, I'd have to object to that, Your Honor, may it please the court, because obviously you're not going to overrule yourself, now are you? And if you argue his case for him, I already lost before I even opened my mouth. Wow. You see, when you start locking their horns like that, all of a sudden, they don't want to talk to you no more. They'll tell the others, go out in the hall and let's have a concurrence here. Let's see if we can work something out here. Let reasonable minds prevail. And don't come back in here. I had a judge just last week tell the trot attorney, I better not find nothing wrong with this foreclosure or you're going to be in deep, serious trouble. You know that attorney couldn't even look that judge in the eye? Why? Because they know all the fraud that's being done. They know robo-signers are signing these documents. They know most of the stuff is all made-up drivel. They know they weren't the holder in due course of the note. They know they don't have no real value, certain interest in No.
But they say you can't fight City Hall. That's what they're answering.
Who says stupid stuff like that? I've been doing it for 44 years, and
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm known in every state in the union. You can fight City Hall if you make up your mind you're deadly serious, and you get your ducks in a row, and you get your business management together, and you get your game together, and you make up your mind, I can do any damn thing, sir. We used to have a thing in the Army where that officer would make you memorize all the weapons and what's the maximum effective range of this one and that one, and then he'd tell me, what's the maximum effective range of an excuse? And you would 0 meters, sir, good bull. That's right. And he said, well, how far is the run? Never ask how far the run is. Never, never, never ask how far the run is, or you'll run 40 miles. Never ask how far the run is. If they ask you how far the run is, you're supposed to say, I can run to the sun, sir. Yes, sir. I can make it. I can take it. I can be airborne infantry. You never ask how far we're running today, boy. That's the kiss of death. I remember showing up at a 7 o'clock reveille one morning on Saturday. We were supposed to have the day off. My God, we were drunk as a skunk. I could barely stand up. We barely got back in time, and we were holding each other up. And that crazy command sergeant major, that same one in that movie, We Were Soldiers, once again, he turns his right face forward hard. And I went, oh, shit. Double time heart. And we were running for 20 miles. And I'm puking all over the side of the road. I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do this again. Some men went to town last night and had a real good time. And we're puking all over the side of the road. And I'll bet you never do that again, huh, soldier? We were sober by the time we got done. I'm telling you, we were cold as sober. I mean, we ran our ass off. Never show up for reveille drunk. Oh, man. That will wake you up forever. And we ran and ran and ran. I love that part in the movie where they're standing there and he goes, I hope you gentlemen like to train. Me and the sergeant major, we come from the paratroopers and we love it. And I'm telling you, everybody in that room went, oh, shit, you know, we're going to get it now. And sure enough, every morning that old man got us up. He'd run around our formation in a gas mask on. What's the matter with you young punks? Can't you run? Da-da-da-da. I'm telling you, you ran. And you just got to make up your mind when you're going to go do this, that whatever it takes, you're going to run. I don't care. If you don't mind, it don't matter. It's when you mind. That's when it matters. That's what that sergeant used to say. So you just got to make sure in your mind's eye you don't mind. And if you don't mind, it don't matter how far the run is, right? And he was right. So you got to have that same attitude when you decide to go fight these guys. I don't care what it takes. We're going to do it. I don't care what these people say about you can't fight City Hall. We're going to do it. And you just do it.
Yeah.
Call up whoever. Go listen to whoever. Go on these talk shows. Go to the law library. Look it up. You know, just make up your mind. I'm going to stop this. This is ridiculous. Right. Somebody has to be the one. And you always hear people, well, somebody's got to be the one to fix it. Well, what's the matter with you? Aren't you a somebody? And you got to have that attitude. So that's what I recommend, okay? Now, to help you better understand, once they do understand that you're serious, and boy, this little girl, she really had to do it. She had to really step up to the plate. And now when she goes into court, they treat her with respect. They know. They know she's a fighter, a fearless and mighty adventuring lass. And she has respect, and they treat her with dignity. They don't jerk her around. They don't assume nothing on her. They know. Don't do that. That girl will come back with a writ, you know.
But Constitution Man, even if Joe gets to drive around with his plates, you know, and they lay off him, I think the fear is that other people will do it, which other people should do it.
They will, but you want to know something? The smart cops are realizing, I'm not getting in no lawsuit over this. If he wants to drive with no license, fine.
Yeah.
They know that 99% of most the other people are too chicken to try it, you see.
But don't we have to deal with that other 99% to
Well, we do. We have to try
otherwise
and
the banks keep going, doing what they're doing.
Well, they do, and the cops keep going also, and we have the same abusive things like you get all over Mike's radio talk show, Mike Golden, where he's got these abusive cops doing stuff to people all the time.
No, you mean Jack Bauer.
Jack Bauer, yeah, but he had a guy on a motorcycle the other day, and the cop pulled him over, and he got out and pulled out his Constitution and told the cop, he says, no matter what, I'm going to sue your socks off. And the cop says, oh, just get the hell out of here. Go on, get. You're out. And he just walked back to his car and left. And see, the motorcycle guy actually benefited from all the people like myself and others that have been pushing on these traffic tickets and what have you. All this time, you got to understand, 44 years ago, nobody talked about this stuff. Nobody.
Right.
You went to jail. You know, you got treated, rather badly. But today, I'm absolutely encouraged. Everywhere you go, you have talk shows like Angela's on doing and getting the word out and telling people, hey, and when they start looking this stuff up, they start understanding, wow, man, and they can't, this is for real. I mean, I can't tell you. The other day, a woman told me that the driver's license that I came up with in 1974 is still being published and sent around. And she whipped one out on an Ohio State trooper, and he just told her, okay, ma'am, just think about slowing down. Go on your way, and just drive a little more carefully. You're going a little too fast. And she came up to me at a meeting and showed me the document, and I remember us publishing that document in 1974, and it still works in Ohio. So I'm telling you, these arguments, and I cannot stress enough courtesy. You know you like to be treated courteous, and if you treat that officer with a little bit of courtesy, you'll find out the smart cops know that we're actually saving their ass. They know. Because if it wasn't for us doing this, they would be the ones that would have to go out and really be hard asses and thump people, you know what I'm saying? And they actually appreciate that we're probably saving their ass. Or there'd be civil war that they'd have to put down, you know what I'm saying? The smart cops know. And they also know that most of us are really good people. We're really good people. When they do their checking and they find out, the one cop comes up to me and says, hell, you're a damn Boy Scout. I says, so what? What's the matter with that? Is it a crime to be a Boy Scout? He says, you got more shit in your pocket than Carter's got pills. You got a snake bite kit. You got a compass in there. He says, you got a matchbox in there. You got matches in the matchbox. He says, what are you, on survival training or something, 101? And I said, well, I was one of the guys that walked out of Cambodia with 2 regiments chasing me. I says, the guy who got my survival kit actually got arrested when I left Vietnam. I gave it to another guy to survive and continue to survive, and when they found all the stuff in that survival kit, it was the best survival kit they ever saw. And he actually had arrested for it because he had 3 grenades in the thing. But I was not into surrender, and the way I figured if they were going to get me, I was going to take a bunch of them with me. But the bottom line is, you have to prepare for life. When we crash landed, the one officer turned to me and he said, you're not going to be able to haul that survival kit, Sergeant. I said, sir, I'm hauling the survival kit anywhere we got to go. I got everything in here. We're going to be out of here. We're going to make it. We're going to make it because I had the foresight to make sure we got everything we need to include canned water. And at the end of the thing, he says, you can bring anything you want on my aircraft, Sergeant. He says, you're unbelievable. He says, I had everything in there. Everything you could imagine. We even used prophylactic rubbers for canteens. You know what I'm saying? We had the best Air Force survival kit you ever saw. And we walked out. We were able to survive. We didn't end up in a POW camp. You know what I'm saying? So the name of the game is the 6 Ps. Piss poor planning provides for piss poor performance. If you want to do something, you got to plan. And if you don't plan to win, you don't plan, you're not going to win. You have to plan to win.
So the plan is the morale of the American people. You want them to have that win mentality, and then everything else falls into place? That's right. And then I want them to do what is required to get their plan going and make their plan work.
And see, that's what it takes. And then the rest is just pure grit, guts, you know. I can remember one time the judge asking me, well, what group do you represent? And I said, well, I'm with the Americans, Your Honor. Maybe you heard of us. We never quit and we always win. And he'd go, oh, that's good, the Americans. He said, just ask John Wayne. He'll tell you, you know. Who's going to tell John Wayne? Everyone sees John Wayne on TV. I mean, you got to have that attitude. The Americans have that attitude. We just, it never dawned on us we weren't going to win, you know.
Do you think you can take out that evil government in the District of Columbia?
Yes, I do. I think that they're eventually going to realize that this is the only rock on this side of the ocean that's worth living on. And I think eventually they're going to come around and realize a great people have stood their ground and come back and brought them some common sense and tried to teach them that the better way to go is the way the forefathers originally laid it out, and why don't we just get back to doing that?
Do you think that the forefathers learned from the Indians and that the Indians were just thinking this corporate level is sort of a level of maturity that we're going through and that we will know ourselves as more enlightened beings? Because it seems as though success in court ultimately is knowing who you are.
Exactly. And I will tell you something about Indians. The Indians of this country were very kind to the white people. I know of cases, and of course I know more of this because I was brought up in the Indian community, do you understand? So I know a lot of stuff about Indians. Do you know that Indians shot deer? When the Mormons left to go west, okay, they were pulling their wagons themselves because they were that poor, do you understand? They were literally, teams of men were pulling the wagons themselves, and they were starving, and the Indians felt so bad for them, they actually shot deer and threw it into their wagons because they knew that people were starving that bad. Now, does that sound like a bunch of savages to you that just wanted to kill off people?
No.
Why would they want to dump deer in their wagons so they'd have food? Do you understand?
Yeah.
But the Indians felt sorry for them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they actually helped feed a lot of those people crossing the plains that would have never made it. A lot of those mountain men that literally mapped the whole crossing of the continent would have never survived if it wasn't for Indian guides.
Right.
You know, like Lewis and Clark and some of these others, you know. It was Indian guides. There was a woman that took Lewis and Clark across this country, do you understand? Right. They never would have survived if it hadn't been for those Indians because they couldn't have communicated with the Indians where they were going through.
Well, what I liked about the teaching of the Musa and Meredith Quinn is that they were feeling that most white men also are just as screwed, you know,
well,
because they don't know who they are either. The white people are so wrapped up in this corporate mentality, and that's basically when Joe and I are successful in court, is that we just exude and we keep reiterating we're not corporations.
Exactly. And we're not a party to the contract, and therefore we have no requirements under the contract.
Yeah, and when you live that truth, everything is just like a house of cards that falls.
Right.
So it seems like the Indians knew this.
They did. And that's why they laughed at the white man when they thought he was going to possess the land. How do you possess the water of the river? How can you hold on to it? That's what they felt, that the white man was being ridiculous to think he could possess the land. You have the use of the land from the Great Spirit. You can hunt, you can fish, you have domain. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing. We need to look up and get everybody out there to look up the 1866 Cherokee-Chickasaw Indian Nations Treaty. And you're going to find out when you look that up that promises were made, especially to these Indians, that they could hunt and fish till the sun falls from the sky and the rivers run dry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you get a DNR guy walking up on you, where's your license to go fishing? Buddy, I'm an Indian. What? I'm an Indian. I don't need a license to go fishing. Not only that, you've taken my right to hunt and fish, which comes to me from the Bible because we're supposed to have domain over the land and the creatures and land and the food on it, you see. And I'm supposed to have that right from the Bible. And you're taking away the right, converting it to a privilege, and then in there requiring me to go seek a license and pay a fee for the exercise of a constitutional right. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 105 is very clear. No state has authority to do that. And if they do, Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, Alabama, 373 U.S. 262 says, I can ignore your license and engage in the right with impunity. You have no claim for which relief can be granted. On top of that, I relied on the counsel of 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court for my defense. That's U.S. versus Bishop, 412 U.S. 346. I have a perfect defense to the element of willfulness. Your prosecutor couldn't prove that I did anything willful on the best day he ever lived. He don't have a cause of action for which relief can be granted. I move for dismissal, Your Honor, failure to state a cause of action, and fraud here, because if he doesn't have a cause of action for which relief can be granted, I'm entitled to summary judgment. May it please the Court, I so move the Court to dismiss, squash, or strike the plaintiff's complaint for fraud. And I collect my costs and fees around the defendant's patently fraudulent and spurious complaint. And they'll sit there and go, well, Mr. Prosecutor, what do you think we ought to do about this gentleman? I'll go for the dismissal, Judge. Good answer. I don't think you're ready for this kid today, you know. And everybody cheers, you know. I just had my second guy win. One of my better guys won a case in Kentucky on the right to travel without a license, and one in Ohio on the right to travel without a license. And we're going to have one shortly in 10 days in Michigan over here in Grand Rapids.
Now, when they go from state to state, how will that work?
That's what they do. They go from state to state. The guy, he does all these shows, these shows for survival shows and all this, and he does all these gun shows and what have you. And he lives out of his motorhome, which is nothing but a huge bread truck that was painted and fixed up like a motorhome. And he travels around, and they pull him over, and he doesn't have any plates or anything. And they used to take him to jail, but now he's starting to get quite a reputation, and they've been letting him go lately. But I used to get a call from here or there, and, hey, they got me and holding me in jail in Kentucky. I'm driving with no license. I said, didn't you give him the papers that I showed you? He says, yeah, I gave it to him. And then 2 days later, he called me. They decided to let me out and drop everything. But see, you don't get that for nothing. You got to earn that. It takes a while to earn that. So when they call up on the computer, they know, oh, don't give this guy no ticket. He'll end up owning the whole town. You don't get that for nothing. You got to earn it.
I understand.
When you do get it, when you do decide to be a fighter and to do this, there are benefits. And the benefits are they just leave you alone. They don't no more want to give you a ticket than the man on the moon. I got to sit there and beg them.
So are people like you then your attention then goes to teaching others, right?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, duplicate me. The more times I duplicate me, the better chance we got to pulling this off. And we want to do it in a peaceful and rational way. You see, if we don't do it in a peaceful and rational way, we shoot ourselves in the foot just to see if it's going to hurt. Let me tell you, folks, if you shoot yourself in the foot, it's going to hurt bad. We don't want people doing violence. We want them to settle this thing in court so that we all benefit, so that when the thing is done, everybody benefits. Everybody's on the same page. Oh, yeah, we did have a right to travel without a license before. See. And eventually, the smarter cops and the smarter judges are going and realizing that this is a very noble decision to take on this stuff, and you have to be willing. You have to be willing to bite your tongue sometimes, because you want to call that guy. Listen, and see, when you stay perfectly calm, just like that Mel Gibson did in that movie, The Patriot Game, and you don't draw your sword and you don't get belligerent. There's nothing they can legally do. And the general told that general, you can't arrest him. He's under a flag of peace, under a white flag. He says, as long as he doesn't draw his sword and become a belligerent and he talks logical and what have you, you can't do nothing to him. He then proceeded to hop on his horse and tell that general, after he told him that it was him that killed his boy, soon. And the guy goes, soon what? He says, I'm going to kill you. Then he drove off and whistled to get the dogs back from the Cornwallis. But, there's a lot of merit to some of these cases. But I love that movie, Braveheart, when the guy's talking about, did you wash your arse today? It's going to be just like And the guy's sitting up there on his horse says, you have bled before Wallace, now bleed with me, And they're all drawing their swords and yelling and screaming and howling, and the one English guy looks at the other guy and says, uh-oh, this don't look good, and then they just charged down that hill and smeared them Englishmen, you know what I'm saying? Now, we can't get all them guys with them swords and big old claymore sword. We have to do this thing intelligently and rationally. We have to get as many people as we can go in here and do this. And unfortunately, you got to have a little bit of guts. You got to have a little bit of crazy, too. You also got to be super patient and super courteous. But the idea is to try and do this in a peaceful and rational and intelligent manner. Because we don't want to hurt nobody, and we don't want nobody hurting us. But at the same time, we have to get across to them. We want them to fix it and put it back the way the forefathers want it. And we definitely want everybody to get on the bandwagon with these banks. And I want you to call all your, get on the horn, and let's get with these senators and congressmen and let them understand. Now, there's House Bill 344 that's supposed to be pending. It's been pending for over a year now, since 2010, to try and put a moratorium on these foreclosures. These foreclosures are doing our country a tremendous damage. A lot of people are never going to recover from being foreclosed on and thrown out on the street with their families. This is obscene. The bankers are the ones that created all this mess. They should at least bear some merit of responsibility for doing it. Also, these bankers don't seem to have any responsibility when it comes to doing the intelligent, rational thing. Just look at Chase Manhattan Bank loaning $5 billion. Now, you would have thought 4 years ago they'd learned their lesson. And then they had to come and ask us, the taxpayers, to bail their ass out, okay? Now they're back here doing the same game again. He goes and blows $5 billion on a diversity gambling program. Well, didn't you learn your lesson 4 years ago? How many times are we going to have to bail you guys out? And then you want to come
as often as you keep bailing us out.
Well, this is ridiculous. I'm for letting these bankers go belly up. If they're going to pull this kind of crap, and then they go and foreclose on us twice as fast as normal to try and recoup the loss for the $5 billion they blew.
Yeah.
See, they see that number in the press as $5 billion got blown. They don't see all the people that they put on the street, the families that are living in cardboard boxes and alleys. They don't see people living under overpasses. They don't see people going through garbage cans looking for food. This is crap. We got to get a handle on this, folks. Somebody's got to be the one, and guess who the one is? It's you out there. It's you. You're the one. Now, if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it either. So guess what? 100% of nothing last time I checked was nothing. So let's plan on you being one of the ones tomorrow that get on the horn and call your congressman and your senator.
344, that was the bill?
344 is supposed to be the bill, and they're supposed to have a complete moratorium on these foreclosures. But then I find out the government profited for $24 billion from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac on the interest rates of the money that they got off of these foreclosures. So I'm sitting there going, whoa, Horsey, there's something wrong with this picture.
Yeah.
How are they going to do anything if they directly benefit from the debacle? That's why we have to get on their ass. That's why we need everybody and his brother to be calling their congressman and their senator and writing letters and bitching them out and saying, look, we have to get the foreclosure problem under control. If we don't do that, this country's dead. It's dead. And after they kill everybody off, what are they going to do for, seconds? And let me tell you, the crime rate is going to go through the roof because once you take everybody, all their stuff, they got nothing to lose, you see. Part of them keeping their stuff together and being a good citizen is having a wife and kids. Part of the thing of them getting a job is being a healthy male married with 3 kids. Got it? Everybody wants to hire a guy who's got a wife and 3 kids, If the guy's divorced and he's off living in the bottle someplace in an alley, who's going to hire him? Where's his self-esteem? You see? So what is his way of making a living? Crime? Can you really live on welfare long term? No. So you just immediately raise the crime rate by a big number, and it's a geometric expansion. You see, you start going and drawing lines on geometric numbers and geometric patterns. Now we go to 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 4, we start going 4 times 4 is 16, 16 times 16.
But something, Constitution Man, I think they planned for that because all these food pantries are running with great efficiency.
Yeah, you think so.
And so they're not really
so much crime? How come crime is going through the roof? Because all these people that are foreclosed on and don't have nothing to live for are going to go take what they need. And if their family is starving and hurting, they're going to go take yours.
No, I would have thought that, but you know, people seem so drugged out now. They're on these medications that make them get disfigured and gain weight, and, you know.
I'm telling you as a friend, come to Detroit, just take a bus trip and go down through downtown Detroit and then come back and tell me this used to be a magnificent city. It still is quite to the spirit.
Dayton,
it was
Ohio.
A phenomenal city. I mean, it was unbelievable. I used to, you know, for 25 cents, I got on a bus, went downtown on a Saturday, took my trumpet lesson, and I walked around safely with nobody bothering me. You cannot do that today.
But this should have been done a while ago. What about the savings and
well
loan
aware.
debacle of
We can always
1991?
talk about, well, we can talk about all those bad things that happened in the past, but you know what? The future is what matters. So we got to start talking all of our time, all of our skills, all of our talents, all of our resources got to be put toward the future. What are we going to do for the future? Talking about the past is past. We got to do something for the future. And
March
it's got
on
to be
Washington,
done soon,
D.C.
or you're going to see major rioting. You're going to see people in god-awful straits, and they're going to, if they have to turn to violence and crime, that's what they're going to do. I don't want to see that. I don't see
that happening. I see people actually saying, you're a deadbeat, you're not paying your mortgage, and you're making me pay more.
Yeah,
so people are kind of scapegoating each other.
Well, let me tell you a secret. Anybody can be buffooned, and I'll be first to tell you. I've gotten buffooned. There's other people who've been buffooned. Anybody can be fooled. You can be defrauded. That's why they call it fraud. There are slick guys that are pretty good at pulling the rug out from under you. And the bottom line is, if you get defrauded and you are injured irreparably, how do you recover? And if we don't have a method of recovering, some type of program to recover, this injury can get to be very bad. I'm telling you. And see, when these people are down and out and they don't have nothing, they got nothing to live for, what's the difference, you know? They don't have the same things that they had before, a wife and 3 kids to come home to after work. You know, they're trying to raise their family in peace and in quiet. They're trying to get their kids through school. They're trying to love their wife and be kind, brave, clean, and reverent. And they can't do that if they're living in a cardboard box in an alley. Or living out of their car in some park someplace. There's a rash of that going on right now, too. I never thought I would see that in the United States of America ever, but guess what? It's happening all over. And when you go through these areas, what are they going to do with all these houses when they're totally unlivable? Now the only thing they're good for is drug houses and crime situations. They depreciate all the property in the area that they're in. The people who did take care of their houses and keep the property up have lost just about everything in the value of that house.
What do you see as the remedy, Constitution Man?
Remedy is we have a leadership in Washington. The remedy is that they take charge of business and they realize that they got to start making decisions in the best interest of the whole country. And one of them right now would be to stop all these foreclosures. Let's try and catch our breath here. Let's try and get back on an even keel. Let's try and at least balance some type of common sense logic. These people are better off in their houses. They're better for the bank, too, because then the house doesn't appreciate. You see what I'm saying? And they don't get the plumbing all ripped out, and they don't get the wires ripped out, and they don't get, the place vandalized beyond recognition.
But do you think the economy...
People have a reason to get up and go to work, or at least try and find some work tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? And it's better to have the people trying than doing nothing but causing trouble and getting into crime. And of course, when these kids get out on the street, and then the next thing you know, they're not going to school. The next thing you know, they're packing guns and knives and getting into all kind of stuff. There has to be a positive move toward intelligent, rational thought, and we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We need to do it better. And one of the ways we need to do it better is get on our congressmen and our senators and let them understand. They don't understand at all, or this idiot Obama wouldn't be running. The Democrats would be ashamed to even put that guy out there. Certainly the Republicans could find a better guy than Mitt Romney to run on the entire Republican Party. It's almost like they're blowing the election.
That surprises you?
Well, you like to think people play to win. You like to think that they want to put somebody up there who's going to be a credible person. Any credible person they put up there would obviously win. Why would you put somebody up there like Mitt Romney, who's got very little chance of winning? So what do people do? They vote for the lesser of two evils. They put this idiot Obama back in there. Now, what kind of intelligent choice is that? That's not a choice. The difference between dumb and dumb.
I heard all the voters registered through the District of Columbia don't add up to more than 3 electoral votes.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I also understand about the computer synthesis programming to try and make the election go any way they want. I'm a little disappointed that Ron Paul didn't make a more strong run for the money, because I personally think Ron Paul has quite a bit to offer as a leader myself.
Are there people in government that aren't related to this corporation in violation called the United States of America, residing in the
Believe
District
it or not,
of
there are
Columbia?
some good people, and you've seen them. There was one guy who got up there and ranted and raved. He says, I'm tired of this crap. You come out here and throw this stuff on our desk, and we're supposed to just not even read it and vote on it? This is ridiculous. Do you remember that? That congressman that got up and did that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there are people down there. Some of them have courage and will speak up. Some of them don't and won't. But we need to get maybe 10 or 15 of those kind of guys to get a little motivation behind them to motivate the other 150, 200, 300, whatever have you, and let them understand, hey, this is the United States of America. We got to fix this. This is all ridiculous. Now, let's get down to basics here. One of the first things we need to do is stop all these foreclosures and tell these banks, lighten up here. Lighten up. Now, you just back off. We're going to keep you on an even keel. Yes, they can. They can do anything.
They can't lighten up, because as soon as they lighten up, the fraud is seen. So why pay them
anything? They already did lighten up by giving them all the taxpayers' money to bail their ass out. So don't tell me they can't lighten up. They can lighten up.
No, they can't lighten up. They can change. Can you change hearts? Can you get a bad judge to be good, to say,
I have.
Wow,
I have done that. I have done that by persuasion and showing him the facts and logic, and that it would be better to decide to do things. And I've actually had a judge come around and say, well, I stand corrected. I see your point.
But you didn't tell him that he was making money off the case. We're telling
no,
these guys
that judge
criminals.
I didn't. Well, some of these judges are criminals.
But yours wasn't.
No, well, that judge actually was a good judge, and eventually he did come around, and we got to be great friends.
Right. No, I know there's many good people,
a lot of times I go into court and people think, well, that you can do that, Carl, but I can't do that. I'm telling you, every person out there can do it if they apply themselves. They can do it. It just requires a little bit of common sense and some courtesy and a little bit of work ethic. If you're willing to do that, everybody can do this. But you got to be willing to try.
We have people waiting in line to ask questions.
Oh, yeah, please.
We got people who want to ask questions. Let's go for questions, because whenever we're doing questions, we're actually getting it running.
Yeah, quick question for you.
Wait.
Yeah,
Al,
go ahead.
You go first, Al.
Go. Stand up, hook up. Let's do it.
All right. In a county, the county makes various code regulations, like you can't have cars on your property without a tag. They give you a code violation for that.
Technically, that's unconstitutional.
Okay, now,
why it's
will we
unconstitutional?
use the 10th Amendment?
Why is it unconstitutional?
Because we have a right to enjoy life the way we want to do it.
And you have a right to your property, right?
Yep.
Now, here's what they don't want. They don't want a car sitting on the property that's full of gas and oil that hasn't been run in 5 years, that's leaking that stuff all over the property and polluting. That's one problem that they want to get rid of. The other problem is they don't want some guy creating a junkyard in a residential neighborhood when you are trying to keep your house and your grass cut nice and his house looks like doo-doo. Got me?
Yeah.
So there is some reasons for some of these things that are rational and logical, okay? Now, obviously, if the guy is, or they don't want people running a business out of their backyard and the whole car looks like, a junkyard in the back, and they got the neighbors complaining the noise and all this stuff, and every time you turn around his driveway's full of junk cars and all this stuff. There are some reasons logically for some of these ordinances, because they want to try and keep up the neighborhood, they want to try and keep up the property values, they want to try and keep up the peace and the integrity of everybody's right to have their decent home and property. So you can argue both sides of these cases, but on the real reality, it's still your property and you have a right to it. Now, if you want to live like a slob, hey,
yeah.
fine. Plan on moving way out. Notice how the smart guys move way out of town, so they don't got to deal with all these. And notice that these signs they have when you come in. This is a zoning ordinance. This is a zone community. You know, we have zoning requirements in this community. Well, that's all done. There's two sides to every story. One of the sides is that they're trying to protect the people's value in their property by not letting a junkyard move next to your property. And you can understand the logic of that, right?
Well, the other point is such as having to get a permit to add a porch on the back or to rewire your house.
All right.
Kind of thing.
You got one of my favorite arguments. Now, I'm telling you as a friend, it's unconstitutional. But I've also seen some wild and wacko crazy guys throw shit together that will come down on your head.
Yeah.
Okay. Have we seen some of that too?
Yeah.
So what they're trying to do, and I mean, they'll put together stuff. This guy put a whole ceiling up with little tiny screws that were nothing but drywall screws. Okay. Well, guess what? That ceiling came down and almost killed 3 people. Mm-hmm. If he'd had to have that inspected, guess what? That never would have passed, right?
Yeah.
So again, we're back at two sides to every story. I think personally, I don't like it when they use the zoning to go screw with people, especially if they're outspoken and they go for Constitution and they're trying to make a positive improvement in the neighborhood, and we all know they do it. But also, I'm not for having some shoemaker come out there and build some shack that if you walked in there, you'd be taking your life in your hands, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
put up some garbage construction, and then you walk in there and you're the one that the thing falls down on, and you get to go to the hospital with a broken neck, you see.
Yeah.
And I've had both situations happen to me. Mm-hmm. And this guy was a shoemaker, and he literally burned the house down with me living in it, got me? Because he did things stupidly. And he didn't have no inspections, and he didn't believe in permits and all this stuff. Well, he didn't think it was necessary to put up a stainless steel flue for his fireplace. He didn't think it was necessary to use double-walled insulated pipe to keep from burning his house to the ground. So guess what? He put in cheap black pipe, and what happened is he set his house on fire, and I just happened to be a guest in the place at that time, and it burned down right over my head. And if that cop had been 30 seconds later, I'd be dead right now. Because you couldn't hear nothing. It started a fire between the walls, inside the ceiling between the first floor and the second floor, and there was not a sound. And if that cop hadn't come to the door, down that door, and said, "Buddy, you got to come out of there right now. Your house is on fire." I closed the flue on the wood-burning stove, grabbed my computer, and ran through the door. And just as I did that, the whole ceiling came, just tons of stuff down on my head. And if I had been 30 seconds later, I would be DEAD as hell. And that cop looked at me and says, "Ain't you glad you listened to me?" And I says, "Buddy, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You saved my life. I'll stand before God and tell everybody."
Yeah. We had several, I taught electricity there in Virginia. Some gentleman decided he was going to put in his window air conditioning unit. And so he wired his he needed 240 volts to it. So he ran an extension cord from the power box across the rug into the AC unit. He went to work, came home, and the house was on fire.
They're totally on fire because that wire became what? A toaster oven, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you don't have people come in and inspect when you do stupid stuff, you know. There should be inspectors coming in and inspecting stuff so that you don't get crazy, stupid people doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because people will do it. And you know, you don't say nothing until you're the one that almost got killed. See, then it's like, wow, man. Now I understand why they have building inspectors to come out here and do stuff like that. Because there are crazy people, and they will put together such god-awful contraptions you cannot believe, and then they'll just, you know, rent it out to some poor person, and they'll end up dead, you know.
Oh, but in all actuality, the Constitution, there's really no requirement for them to do that except for safety purposes.
None.
Yeah.
And you have the right to be stupid as a rock if you want to be. That's, you know, being American. Yeah. If you want to be dumb as a rock, go ahead. Yeah. And I personally think that it's good to have building inspectors. I think as long as they're not being deliberately abusive to somebody because they're standing up for their Constitution, I have a problem with that. That I do have a problem with, okay?
when I saw the
I think
inspector
it's important that we get proper building inspections, because I know some of these people out here would make every damn fool stupid construction you could imagine, and somebody would get killed. Imagine how many people's lives are saved daily by having building inspectors. So.
Well, I agree with you. But then there's always the inspector, like I saw in D.C. He was doing electrical inspection. He kept looking in these panels, and I said, "What the hell is he doing this for?" I'm saying this to myself, and because the part of the inspection he needed to be done, he wasn't doing. And when he got to the panel that had the fifth of booze in it, he signed the paper and left.
I see. So he was bribed, is what you're saying.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. I think we all have seen stories like that, for sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we start out with a plan. We mean well. It doesn't always work that way, but we mean well.
Yep.
Okay,
so I
you
think
know
you
what?
can ride
We've got a lot.
both. All right, let's try and get as many as we can, because I want to cover as much programming as we can here.
Okay,
but thank you for your question. It was appreciated. One of my very favorite subjects.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's move on. Shrink Rat, go ahead. And then next is Eric, and then we've got four more.
Stand up, hook up. Let's go. Jump.
Okay, Shrink Rat.
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Shrink Rat.
Hello. Earth calling the moon. Over.
Where'd you go?
Hello?
Okay, Shrink.
Get the next
Shrink
one.
Rat.
I don't know.
There you are.
Was my hand?
Right. Yep, you're up. Go.
Yeah, your hand was up. Did you want to ask a question?
My God, how'd that happen? I didn't even have my headphones plugged in.
Well, you did it. You did it now. You got to come up with a question. Let's go.
Oh,
no, you don't have to.
I'm just teasing you. I got to have a little fun.
Oh, dear.
Watch him ask me the Mars lander land on the Mars today.
You don't need to ask a question. We got a whole bunch of people to go, so.
Okay, I'll get off and let you go on.
Thank you, my dear.
Sorry about that. All right, not to worry.
Okay, we have Eric. Let me see. Go ahead, Eric, Mississippi. Eric in Mississippi.
Yes.
Did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much,
Okay, you need
Angela,
to speak up a little louder because we can barely hear you.
Okay, thank you, Angela, for this call. When I'm able to make a donation, I will. And
thank you.
It's a pleasure to be on here live. But the question I had was for the Constitution Man, of course, and it's involving foreclosure.
Okay.
Now, I have a very unique situation. My father, he passed, and I live in his house. And I have four other siblings. Of course, I know this is not legal advice.
Yep, it's not legal advice. This is just friendly talk on a talk show.
Absolutely. But
pretend I'm your Uncle Mike. Just pretend like I'm your Uncle Mike.
Okay, Uncle Mike. Well, there are several programs in my state that will pay your mortgage for you, but the situation is that I don't know how to get into those programs. The house is not deeded in my name. There was no will, and my father, he just died abruptly.
Okay.
So
there must be some type of programming. Did you check your father to see if they have a bank vault box or some type of safety deposit box where he might have kept papers?
There was none.
If you know where his bank is, you can go down there and inquire, or have an attorney inquire and tell them that they're trying to prepare the probate of the estate, and they need to be able to, and they'll go get a court order to have the safety deposit box opened up, and you can have your attorney go through the papers that are in there, and there may be a last will and testament in there. That's one way. There may be some insurance policies. There may be some stock and bond programming. I don't know your family situation that well. I don't know your father that well. I don't know what he was like, but he may have a safety deposit box down at the bank full of all kinds of stuff. Be very helpful to you and your family.
Okay, and if there is none.
Okay, if there is none, who is the executor of the estate? Did anybody get appointed the executor of the estate?
No one was named executor of the estate. He died abruptly.
Do you have an attorney right now, a probate attorney right now?
I do not.
Somebody is going to have to take charge of the estate of your father, and they're going to have to go and have an attorney look into paperwork to see
what holdings are even worth, and you're probably going to be appointed the temporary trustee or executor of the state until they can get some proofs of somebody else. Like if they find a box at a bank that has a will in it or something like that, and then appoint somebody to be the trustee or the executor of the estate. But until then, you're probably going to be the one. And you're going to have due diligence and be willing to be really patient. And you need to get to an attorney right away that specializes in probate matters and see about probating your father's estate. And then what usually will happen is if there is no will and there's nothing that says anything, it will go to what is called the right of survivor, okay? Which means that it'll be divided up among you and your siblings. Do you understand? Yeah. Probably equally to all parties, okay? Or if he has does he have a living wife?
No, my mother.
Well, see, all of this stuff has to be taken into consideration. That's why it's very important that you have a competent probate attorney who will walk step by step through all this stuff and make sure we don't miss nothing and we cover everything. You're going to have to make a list of all of the property and what have you that was your father's, and any possible interest in the property, or how many people are involved, you and your siblings, and literally they're going to divide your father's property without a will, unless they find one at a bank, in the safety deposit box. And I hate to say it, but this happens all the time, and people don't. I think it comes down from the idea that we believe we're never going to die.
Absolutely.
It's a shock all of a sudden when we find out, son of a gun, I died. You believe that? I died. I couldn't believe I done that. And they don't ever make a will, or they don't ever make a last testament. You understand? It's very important, and I tell everybody out there, you should have a will. There should be some explanation that if you should get killed in a car wreck tomorrow, where you would like, your property to be disposed of or shared or whatever. And I think people do that out of kindness, because I think what happens is relatives start fighting amongst each other, and I have seen some pretty ugly stuff, believe me, where brother against brother in court suing for tittle-ass rings and watches and stupid stuff, you know what I'm saying? Right. You divide a whole family, and really that's unnecessary. If they would have just taken the time to do a will and set it up right, and so-and-so gets so much, and this one gets so much, and you try and equally divide everything, and it's just intelligent to do that. So this is a good question that you've asked, a good question, and it happens all the time. Now, let me tell you another secret what happens. A lot of times if nobody comes forward, guess what happens? The state takes it. It's called the Escheats division. Nobody comes forward and takes it, and next thing you know, you got the Escheats division coming, and they take it on behalf of the state. So you don't.
Could you spell that? Could you spell that?
An attorney.
Yeah, what division? Could you spell that?
Called the Escheats division of the state, and they will take over all of the property interests of your father, and then you'll end up having to fight the state for it.
Known as the exchequer.
Well, you call it the exchequer. You can call it. Some states call it. It's mainly the Escheats division that takes care of unclaimed property.
Yep.
You look it up, you'll see I'm right. Okay.
Yep.
Could you spell that?
Escheates.
Oh, a state division.
Escheats division of the state.
Okay.
Another good example is they'll have bank accounts, and they won't do nothing on them for 7 or so many years. Well, after so many years, that bank account goes into an account for the state, and then they'll publish for 3 times in 6-month period. If nobody comes forward and takes that account, that money goes to the state. That also is in the Escheats division.
All right, is that good for you?
Well, I had another question.
All right, go ahead.
My father had taken out a small loan, and it didn't seem like him not to take out provisions for that loan to be paid off. But it's through Citibank, and they're saying that the loan was not paid off. We've been on a death.
Okay, well, guess what? Did he die?
Yes.
Sounds like a personal problem to me. There's a cross on every one of these white buildings down the street with a chapel on it. They can go down there and cry because they ain't going to collect nothing. He died. So did the debt.
And so did the debt?
Yep. This is real important that you get to an attorney right away because the bank may try and come and get that house for settlement of the debt, especially if there was a collateral interest. They may foreclose on your house.
Okay, yes, it was a small
You need to have this thing decided, like, fast. You need to go get to an attorney that's serious in probate matters if we can't get this rectified right away before the bank gets a chance to come in and start putting their hands on the property.
Okay, you're saying that the debt was actually paid. How can I prove that?
Well, technically, if he died, he died. Well, you sent him a copy of the death certificate.
We did that, and they said we still had to pay on the loan.
They're full of manure. You tell them to quit smoking that stuff. It's no good for them. The debt is done when they died. When your father died, that was it, buddy.
Okay.
Give him one of those little cards that you had at the funeral, you know. We regret to inform you that the passing of on such and such date, he lived for 88 good years, you know. Doesn't matter. He is deceased. The debt technically died with him.
Okay, so...
But they could try and come and collect on his house. They could try it. But they would have to sue you for it. They couldn't do it on a sheriff's foreclosure sale. They'd have to physically sue you, get a judgment against the estate of your father. That's why it's important that you get this thing done quick and dirty right now.
Okay.
So that the estate will be all divided up and it'll be too late for them to come and have a claim. Okay?
Okay.
I hate to say it, but death brings out some of the worst in relatives. It's amazing how relatives will want to be the first one to go over to the house and clean out all the dresser drawers and the jewelry and everything. It's just sad.
But my siblings are fine. My siblings are fine. They just want to know if I'm going to be able to make the payments on the loan that's still standing. But you saying that the debt has been paid since he died.
Technically, if he died, you know, but I would do something. I'd get to a lawyer right away because they may try and foreclose on the house.
Okay, what about the payments that we've already made? Can we go back and get those back?
Well, you want some real good advice?
What's that?
If you don't want to be a party, then don't be one. But if you're going to act like a party, guess what? In for a penny, in for a pound. So my advice is get to an attorney right away and let's see if we can't get the estate taken care of, or you're going to probably have to fight tooth and nail for that house. Okay? And I'm telling you this as a friend to help you, not to give you bad advice, but to give you serious counsel. You need to have a serious probate attorney look over everything. Let's see what we can do to protect everything. And you may end up, if the house is held in collateral attachment, you may have to pay on that thing to keep the house, or they'll foreclose on it. They'll try and find the property of your father and then try and collect on that property. But they'll have to sue you to do it. So it's in your best interest to get to an attorney real quick, sit down with him, and let's see what we can get probated real fast among all your folks, and maybe we can beat them and be ahead of them.
Okay, well, yeah, there's no problem with my siblings. It's just the fact that if they're saying that there's still a loan that needs to be paid on, and they were asking.
Now, is this a personal loan from credit card? Is this a personal loan from credit card?
It wasn't from a credit card. He just went in, and it was one of those ARM loans. And
was the house pledged as security for the loan?
Yes, it was.
Well, hey, you got a problem there. Then that's a mortgage.
Okay.
That isn't what you told me before, but that would be considered to be a mortgage. If he pledged the house as security for the note, you'll probably have to pay on that then.
Okay.
But I was understanding that it was just a debt, like a credit card debt, or he had a personal loan or something.
No, he put the house up.
Well, you're going to have an attorney go through the papers and figure it out, and then decide, okay? And then you have to make a decision with you and your siblings as to what you want to do and how you want to handle it. But if it's just a personal debt, the debt died with them, okay? If it's a credit card debt, it's dead. There's nothing they can do about that.
No, he pledged the house.
That's why they call it unsecured debt. Because if the guy dies, you're just out of luck.
All righty.
Okay. Does that take care of that? Let's go to the next one.
We're going to move. Okay. Milo Talk, you're on. Did you have a question for Constitution, ma'am?
How are you doing, Angela? And Paul, how are you?
Hi. We're doing great.
Go near a window. You're breaking up kind of bad. Go near a window. You're breaking up kind of bad.
Going up near a window. I'm actually on a landline.
Okay. Well, I don't know why you'd be able to come on a landline.
How do you get the information relative to the judge's finances? Because a lot of it would be in street
there's
name.
a lot of ways of doing it. One way is to go to the Election Commission. He's supposed to have filed a financial statement before he is elected that says all of his financial interests. Now, we actually caught a judge, and this was an amazing story. The judge was sitting on the board of directors for this hospital. Well, the hospital got sued by none other than Jeffrey Feiger. And they went and checked and come to find out that the chief judge of the local county circuit court was on the board of directors for the hospital. And see, he was supposed to recuse himself, but he didn't do that. He had to let us catch him and then bust him. Okay? And see, when you're on the board of directors of the hospital, you can't sit on a case that involves the hospital before your court. That would be a conflict of interest, right?
Right.
But the judge wasn't honest and didn't put down his conflict of interest. So we ended up having to throw him off the bench physically, and he ended up getting kind of forced into retirement after that.
Second question.
Always best to be honest. Usually when you're honest, you don't have nothing to fear. It's when you're not honest that you got to fear.
Second question is, in Palm Beach County, we have a very arrogant group of people who refuse to provide the oaths of office of any of the judges or the county clerk or the court clerk or whoever. They just refuse to answer.
You file what is called the Freedom of Information Act under Title V, United States Code, Section 552A, and they have to provide it. It's public record.
FOIA.
You know how to do a Freedom of Information Act request?
Yes.
Okay. Title V, Section 552A. Look it up to see I'm right. And if you file a Freedom of Information Act request, they have to provide it.
Thanks, Carl.
Or at least give you a reason why they won't provide it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. It better be a good reason, too.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I love it.
Have a good night.
Take care now.
Okay, thank you so much. Next we have guest 84. Go ahead. Did you have a question?
Hello?
Hi. Yep, we're here.
Hi.
We're here.
I have a question. I have a 16-year-old that's under state custody. It's been 5.5 years to go to court in October to surrender a birth certificate, which I don't have copy, and they're saying that they're going to subpoena me if I don't surrender a birth certificate. How can I handle that? Because I don't know anything about the Constitution.
There's several ways to handle it. Number one, most states require that if you are handed a subpoena, okay, they have to provide you with at least a check for 1 day's appearance costs, okay? Now, they always forget to do this. They almost always forget to do this. So what you do is go look in your state court rule. In Michigan, I can tell you for sure, it's 2.508 B2A. It says that if you subpoena somebody, you got to give them a personal check to them or drawn on your attorney's checking account for at least 1 day's appearance costs, okay? And if you don't surrender that check to the person subpoenaed, they don't have to show up, okay? Now, that's done for a lot of reasons. One, you may be poor and not have the money to be able to go to court, you see what I'm saying? So they have to at least pay your costs for 1 day's appearance costs. And if they aren't willing to do that, the subpoena don't mean jack, okay? So be real quiet when they serve you the subpoena and just see if they have a check attached to it made part thereof by reference. If they don't have a check to it, you don't have to pay no attention to it. Number two, do you know where the kid was born?
Yes, my daughter was born in Puerto Rico. She was not born here.
Okay, well, you can try writing them. You can try writing them to see if they will provide you with a copy of the birth certificate. Now, if they won't provide you a copy of the birth certificate, you can give that information to the party that wants to subpoena you and tell them, go subpoena them.
because that's where it's at.
Uh-huh.
And then they can go down and subpoena them where the birth certificate's at.
Okay, yeah, because the child has been under state custody for 5.5 years, and I've been trying to get her back, but it's been a whole big mess, and I was thinking about just surrendering my parental rights. Just
No,
to get
don't do that. Don't do that. No. Do you care anything for this child?
Of course I do. I have plenty of communication.
Well, I have to ask. Okay, so I need to know. Before we go further, we have to have a sincere interest in the care and well-being of that child. Now, the second thing, do you have any funds to hire an attorney?
Nope, I'm not working. I'm going to be homeless soon.
Okay, all right. So that's going to be real hard for you to get a kid without a home. You understand? The state is going to be looking at the kid coming to a good home. And they aren't going to be too kind at giving you any custody of that kid if you're homeless yourself, you see. So I'm just telling you the facts just to let you know, okay? That's how the state is going to look at it. They're going to want to have people come out from the state and make sure that you have a very nice, quiet, serious atmosphere for that kid to grow up in, you understand? So they will check you out for sure. So if you don't have a home, your chances of getting custody of that kid are somewhere between 0 and none, okay? You have to have a home. They are going to want to inspect the home, too. And they're going to want to determine that it's a safe, reasonable environment for a child and the safety of a child, okay?
Okay.
The next thing, you're going to almost for sure have to have an attorney, because if you don't have an attorney, the judge is going to make a statement like this: well, she don't care. She didn't even hire an attorney. And if she don't care, why should I? And that's exactly what the judge will say. So you have to have an attorney, okay? You have to have an attorney who will work with you and for you, okay?
Well,
the attorney is going to try and make a case. The attorney is going to try and make a case for you to get custody of the child, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the attorney can make a case for you to get custody of the child and you've got a house and a safe place for the child to come and be, you've got a shot, okay?
Okay, because in the past I tried to do that. They wouldn't give it to me when I had a place. Now that I have to give up my place, but I'm probably going to be doing soon a work exchange out of the lady that actually said to me, if you decide to come and stay here, and everything, I can actually be able to try to get her to come and stay here with us, and I'll be the paperwork.
You can do that. You can do that. That will be helpful, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to have a good place for the child to come and live in serious support, so that the child has got a chance to grow up in a reasonable home, okay?
Okay. But
that'll have to be done. And so the best I can tell you is the sooner you can make that happen, the better chance you have of getting custody, okay?
Okay.
Because the state doesn't particularly want to keep that child. It costs them a lot of money to keep that child. Now, how old is this child now?
She's 16. Next year, she has a year and a half more to
Yeah, you got to pull this off before he turns 18. Otherwise, he gets to do what he wants.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, that's my best counsel. That's the best I can tell you. I can tell you this: these judges are very, very careful about assigning a child. They certainly are not going to put a child in a home where that child is not going to be safe and has a reasonable expectation of a quality of life. They will not do it. I promise you.
Okay.
Especially if it's an abusive home where they've taken the child out of an abusive home, they're not going to send the kid back to an abusive home. It ain't happening.
Well, my ex-husband did something to her, but he's nowhere in the picture, so.
Okay, well, he would probably be given a court order to stay the hell away.
He for his arrest, but they've never been able to find him, so there's nothing that they.
When they find him, he's going to jail, so.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make sure he stayed the hell away, okay?
Oh, no, I don't have for my divorce, and it's been already going on 2 years, so there's no contact.
All right, well, that's good. That's good. All right, it sounds to me like you got a plan. You just now got to plan your plan and work your plan, and you should be, in the driver's seat.
All right, thank you very much.
For sure, you got to make a better plan because the kid has to have someplace to live, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
All right.
They will want to come out and inspect it, I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
They won't take your word for it. They'll want to come and inspect it, make sure that the kid has a good house.
Now, I have another question, which they're actually now, the court order states that they want me to do family therapy. I've done that so many times. And
what is this now? They want you to what?
They want me to do family therapy, and I've done that so many times. Working.
Now, you want to know a secret? You want to get this kid back? You want to get this kid back? You're going to have to go do the therapy.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're not getting them back.
I see.
You know what that therapy is for?
Yeah.
They're to do a bunch of things. It's there to actually make sure they got some kind of oversight to watch and see that everything is going well, and to make sure that everything is going well, and to actually have contact with you. They're not just going to release that kid for nothing, and there's going to be no supervision. I promise you that ain't happening. They're going to want to check on you periodically. They're going to want to make sure that kid's living in a good, clean house, and if that kid doesn't have that opportunity, they're going to take him back. You see, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, because she's not too happy with it.
They can be a royal pain in the butt. Trust me, I've been doing this a long time.
Okay, because my daughter states to me, she's like, Mom, I'm tired of this. Why you and I can just be alone? Why do they have to supervise us?
Can't she emancipate herself? She's 16, you said?
Yes, she is. But they have her on a lot of psychiatric medication.
The judge is also going to ask her if she wants to come live with you.
But the problem is, she can't even go to court. She wants to go to court, and the DHS worker won't even take her to court. So that's why I know I'm changing.
But I'm going to tell you a secret. Before that child gets placed, that judge is going to want to talk to whoever is involved and see whether or not, one, she wants to even go with you, and two, whether or not you can provide for her. And I'm telling you right now, you won't get that kid until that court case comes to the court date.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and I wish you luck.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, you all know how this is. They basically, they're very, very, very dogmatic about kids today because a lot of kids have died, and so they're going to be extra careful. They're not going to screw around.
All righty, we got more people waiting to ask questions.
Let's go.
All right, South Kansas. Go ahead, South Kansas.
Hello, you were talking earlier about the building codes and how people that create shoddy construction create clean situations and stuff like that. Well, I think it creates a bit of a landslide effect for those of us that buy houses, and we didn't know there was shoddy construction because it looked good and okay in the beginning, and then consequently, because it pretty much robbed you of all your income trying to fix up the stuff as it fell apart, you end up with a landslide effect of the inspector keep coming back and keep trying to blame more stuff on you. And
I appreciate what you're saying there too. That I actually told that gentleman that I appreciated that they can be abusive, especially if you're outspoken and you're defending your constitutional rights. They can be a real pain. That is true. Okay, but let me tell you a secret. The reason why those houses even came into existence is because they didn't have good building inspectors in the old days. They didn't have requirements to do this stuff. And people erected all kind of ungodly things, where you can literally be killed in some of these houses just minding your own business, not doing anything, sitting in a chair and the ceiling falling on you. I mean, I understand that there can be problems. This is not what I'm saying. I understand that you sometimes need to defend against abuses of the building inspectors because they are abusive, and we all know all these local governments are hurting for bucks, so they try and find any way they can to make money, and they'll do it on you if they can get away with it. But I also understand there are some real shoemakers out there that couldn't make a ball bearing. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't draw a ball bearing if you set the compass for them, and they make junk, and they put stuff up with all kind of shoddy building, and if that had to be inspected and properly looked at, they wouldn't get away with it, you see. So you wouldn't even be in the position of buying a house all screwed up, because those people would have made sure they had to have an inspection and at least some type of reasonable construction, okay? Now, do you want to continue the ridiculousness? Where do you want to draw the line here? I mean, we can do this all night long, depending on where you draw the line. At some point, rational people come to the conclusion that we need to have some serious oversight, especially when it comes to wiring, especially when it comes to, actual construction and build, especially when it comes to, fire hazards and things like that. You don't want to come to the house to find the thing burned to the ground with 7 kids in there. You know what I'm saying? There has to be somebody has to draw a line and say, okay, we're going to get rational now, and we do. Now, obviously, somebody has to defend if they're going to be abusive. I agree with that, too. So what we have to do is draw the fine line, and where do we draw it? Now, we can go back and forth all night. Where do you want to draw the line?
Yeah, the problem here is they built, two-level brick structure on soft ground, and all the concrete falls at the house, and now you'd have no drainage and consequently water damage inside. And
well, let me ask you a question. When you bought the house, did you have the house inspected?
I don't think so. It was a
okay. Well, part of the problem has got to be on you then, because you didn't have it inspected. You see what I'm saying? A lot of towns now require you to have it inspected before a sale is consummated. You have to go get an inspection.
Right.
Now, there's good reasons for that, too. And actually, that is kind of abusive, too. But again, that makes sure people like yourself don't buy into a house that has all these problems. But again, where do we draw the line? Where do you come in the history of this house? Where do you come, you see? Do you come after the chicken crossed the road to the other side, you see, or do you come before? If you come before, obviously you can be clearly injured, okay? But now that they have these requirements, where are we to sit and accuse? The whole facts have to be considered in each case separately, and each case is different. There's no two alike. Now, if you have an abusive building inspector, then we need to fight him and go after him, okay? But if we have a building that's totally unlivable or damn dangerous, you wouldn't want your kid to even go in there. You certainly wouldn't want him to get killed, What do you want to do? You see, how do I logically make a decision here for the betterment of you and your family?
Right.
And at some point, you got to realize we need building inspectors because, man, there are some people out there that will throw unbelievable garbage up. And then it looks like a house, it looks like a building, and you walk in there and the whole thing falls on your head.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened if we'd had it inspected. You see what I'm saying?
It was a lot that way with our health and our dental and our vaccine schedule when we were young too. And I think they're still doing the same thing. They're creating compound effects for young people.
Where do you want to draw the line? Where do you want to draw the line?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have it drawn in their best interest. You see, the building inspector too wants to have it drawn. Hey, he doesn't want to get sued. See?
Right.
So where do we draw the line? You have to have, in other words, there has to be a set of facts where you draw the line, and then from there figure out how we're going to handle this.
Right.
You obviously sound like you bought a house that has a lot of problems. Now, you may be able to sue the owner. I don't know. It depends on what kind of contract you signed. If you bought it sold as is, you might be out of luck. And then they'd always ask you, well, did you have it inspected before you bought it? Because you had a right to do that. And then a lot of times people say, well, no. Well, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you go get it inspected? You knew you had a right to do that, didn't you?
No, back then I didn't know.
But then they'll say that some of the burden should fall on you for not getting it inspected, right?
Right.
So how do we attach liability? How do we show
the clear attachment of liability or negligence? Do I put it on you for not going and getting it inspected? Or do I put it on them for selling a bum house? Or do I put it on the building department for allowing this to be built in their territory and inspected, and then that they obviously missed all of this stuff that's all screwed up? Where do we draw the liability line? How do I assess liability?
Right. Well, they've created more than one liability here. They put a microwave cell relay tower up less than half.
That's another thing. But see, when you moved in there, you saw that microwave tower, didn't you?
No, they built that tower after we were here.
Okay, but did you see the tower when you moved in?
No, they built it 11 years after, 10 years after we moved here.
Oh, well, see, you couldn't have defended yourself. Well, did you bitch when they told you were going to set a tower up there?
No, they didn't. They didn't tell us. They just put it up there. No discussion and no.
Well, now here's what the law will say. You ever heard of a term called laches and curs? Laches is a species of action or a party of reasonable intelligence and integrity having a right to take an action prescribed by law, and having waited 11 years to do so, gave up the right a long time ago. They don't have a right to bitch now, you see. That's called laches and curs. You had a right to bring it up when they built the tower, but you don't have a right to bring it up 11 years later. You see my point?
Well, it depends on the situation too, because as I've discovered, the towers don't affect everyone the same. They affect people with silver fillings in their mouth much worse.
But they'll ask you when they went to build the tower up, did you object?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you didn't object, what's your bitch? You agreed by what is called acquiescence. That means you didn't say nothing, therefore, hey, nobody bitched. You see.
Right.
They got away with it, in other words, right?
Right.
But everybody needs to know, being around those cell towers is damn dangerous because there is a high degree of radiation that comes off of those that can physically affect your health. Not to mention mess up your TV and your computer and everything else.
Oh, yeah, I found that out, too.
Now, are you in an area that has these new electrical meters that they're putting in all these houses?
Yes, I had one of those. I made the electric company come out and take it off.
Okay, well, you did the right thing, see? Now you took charge and you made them take it off, right? Why? Because it's in your best interest, right? You should have done the same thing when they tried to put that tower up in your backyard. You see what I'm saying?
Right. I made the president of the neighborhood association aware of it. It's closer to his house than it is mine. And he goes, oh,
maybe when these people come down with cancer and a few other bad maladies, they'll figure it out and demand that they remove the thing. But those things are notorious for giving off a high degree of radiation. It affects everybody. They've proven, especially with animals, farm animals, especially they got their hooves in the wet dirt and the mud, that it's definitely high-tension electrical wires and or those towers do affect the health of their cattle. So, gee, do you think it might affect the health of you or your family? Well, yeah, come on.
Yeah, well, it killed my cat 6 months ago.
Well, see. So maybe we ought to circulate a petition in the neighborhood saying maybe we ought to pull that cell tower down because there's a lot of kids that live here and it's too dangerous and it's causing all kind of problems and people are coming up with cancers. And
right. It's animals that affects the worst. You know, you can't leave an animal.
An animal is better grounded than you are. An animal, you get a big 2,000-pound cow, he's going to be standing in that dirt. He's going to sink down a good 6 inches. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be in wet mud. He's going to be grounded. You see?
Yeah. Right.
So any of that radiation is going to directly go to him and affect his vital organs and his body function.
Right.
So that's
all right, let's move on.
All right?
Let's move on.
All right, did that pretty well answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to write a petition, affidavit.
There you go.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I identified it 2 years ago. They did nothing then.
All right, that's good. Be somebody. Be somebody that circulated the petition, and then you're somebody.
Let us know how it turns out.
Yeah, let us know, because we do care. We would like to know. We'd like to see people go out and do stuff.
And I like to hear success stories.
We do like to hear success stories.
But
All
you know
right,
what?
I'm
It's a
sorry.
success story if he goes out. See, that to me is a success story if he goes out.
All right, guest 54, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Hello?
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 What's your question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay. Well, my name's Doug, and I'm having a little problem with this judge up here in Amarillo, Texas.
Okay.
And they put a trespass warrant on me for not being able to go to the tag office or up to the courthouse.
He put a trespass on you for what now?
So I couldn't go up there to the courthouse. I wanted to file some charges against the police department for pinching a nerve in my neck when they threw me in the back of a car. I got a broke back. And they just handcuffed me and threw me in the back of the car.
How long did this happen? How long ago?
In January.
January, okay. Have you been to an attorney?
Yeah, I've tried to get an attorney here in town in Amarillo here, and nobody wants to touch it.
Well, you might have to go out of the town area and go to the next town.
Like
for the
Lubbock
simple
or
reason.
something?
Well, that attorney makes his money in that court, right?
Right.
And that court does business in that town. And all the lawyers in that town know that judge. Probably some of them go golfing with him. Got me?
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to find an attorney in that town. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Now, next thing is, did we go document all of these injuries with a doctor? Did you go to the hospital? Did you
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Do you have those medical reports? Because the lawyer's going to want to see them right off.
Yeah, I'm going for an MRI in my neck next week because I keep telling him my hands are numb now after being abused like that.
All right. Well, let me tell you something.
And I tried to file charges on the judge for not abiding by the Constitution.
Yeah, but attorneys are not going to be inclined to want to file a charge against a judge that helps them make a living. You understand?
Right.
So it's going to be very difficult, especially from that town where all of them attorneys know who that judge is. Some of them probably go to dinner with them and go to the same country club. You understand?
Yes.
Again, you're going to have an attorney from another town, an adjacent town that doesn't make all his business in that town, okay?
Okay.
Then on top of that, you're going to have to document and write down all of your claims so that it can be intelligently and rationally documented. Handle it. Maybe a lawsuit needs to be filed. You see my point?
Yeah. Well, I told the judge.
You're the person that knows the story better than anybody else. If you stand outside a courthouse and you listen to everybody that's bitching when they come out of that courthouse, most of the bitches that you're going to hear are people telling the lawyer, well, you didn't bring up this, and you didn't bring up that, and you didn't bring up this, and you didn't bring up that. Well, there's a reason for that. That lawyer is never going to know the case as good as you do. You have to make sure he has significant documentation as to what actually took place. So you're going to have to sit down and calmly write out about a 3 to 4 page document explaining the whole story from scratch.
Okay, I did that and I handed that my truth of affidavit to the judge.
Okay, well,
obviously the judge still found me guilty on said that I ran a stoplight and reckless driving. I said there's no way you can run a stoplight there on such a busy road.
Okay.
That's a lie. And the second count that he charged me with, they dismissed because they said I was sitting there waiting on a green light. But
okay, so how did you run the light? So how could you run the light if you were sitting there waiting on the green light?
Judge didn't want to hear it.
Okay, well, that wouldn't be the first time I've heard of that. There's a bunch of times that I've heard the judge don't want to listen to nothing you got to say. Okay. All right, well, first things first, we have to document everything that happened, so you're going to have to be able to tell your story. Okay? And that's going to require you sitting down and putting it all down in writing. And then we're going to have to go get you an attorney, probably in the next town or a town over. And you're going to have to sit down with him and see if there's a way we can get a remedy or a lawsuit going for the abuse of your rights, okay?
Yeah. Because I told the judge, I said they didn't read me my...
What was the reason they arrested you? What was the reason that they arrested you?
Reckless driving is what they said. And they said right in court that they didn't read me my rights, didn't take me before a magistrate, didn't do none of the stuff that they were supposed to do according to the law.
Okay. All right. Well, you have a legitimate claim. Put all that down, too. Put it all down. Okay.
And I have a copy, and I handed the judge a copy of all the laws that Texas has about driving.
Okay.
And that there's no such thing as a driver's license in the state of Texas. No, they don't want to hear nothing about the laws. They don't care about the laws. They didn't care about reading my Miranda rights. Didn't care about taking me before.
When you went in, you didn't have an attorney, did you?
No.
Okay. So their attitude is, well, if you really cared, you would have had an attorney.
That's correct.
And see, you
but
didn't have an
I
attorney.
filed all my papers before I went to court.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your endeavor. I appreciate that this is probably your first time trying.
Yeah,
and you did the best you could with what you had, but an attorney would have been at least a little better and would have had at least an ability to discuss with the judge the situation. You probably would have got a better hearing if you would have had an attorney. I understand also that you probably didn't have the money at the time, did you, to hire the attorney, did you?
No, sir. I'm disabled.
Okay, well, see, these are more problems that are coming up, and a lot of the people that are subjected to this kind of stuff can't afford to fight. This is the way it is.
Correct.
So how do we do this? Well, we have to figure a way to get you better qualified to fight on your own behalf, okay? And this
Correct.
sometimes creates quite a problem, but the general judge is going to have the attitude, well, if you really cared, you would have gone and hired an attorney. Does that make sense to you? Because you didn't hire an attorney, I don't have to listen to you. You're just a little citizen.
Correct.
And that's basically what he did, and then what they did is they just made a deal to charge you with some of the charges and drop the rest of the other charges, and hopefully you just walk away and that'd be the last.
They charged me with one charge and dropped the other charge.
Well,
because the other charge, they knew that it would disallow the first charge, but I didn't read it in court. I should have, but I didn't. I didn't catch it in time.
Well, you don't bring it up, guess what?
You can't use it.
You can't use it, yeah. And if you go on to appeal, they won't let you bring it up on appeal if you didn't bring it up the first time in court.
Yeah, well, I tried to appeal, but I really didn't know how to go about appealing.
Yeah, well, appealing is rather involved. It can be done. You can do it, but again, you're really better off to have an attorney do it. Otherwise, the judge gets the idea, well, if you'd have really cared, you'd have hired an attorney, and that's their attitude, okay?
Yeah.
All right,
okay.
Now, the next thing we need to do is, do you have any evidence or documents or pictures when you went to the hospital? Did they take pictures of any black eyes or any bruises or anything?
No, I went to my doctor, my personal back doctor on my back, and I told him that my fingers is starting to get numb and going numb from them slamming me down into the car.
Okay.
And he said that they pinched a nerve in my neck.
They roughed you up and arrested you, right?
Yes.
They roughed you up and they arrested you?
Yes.
Okay.
Took me to Randall County. Randall County refused to accept me because I had filed a lawsuit in Randall County before, about 7 years before that. So Randall County refused to accept me, so they took me to Potter.
Okay. All right. And then how long did they hold you?
Well, until my brother came up there, about 5.5 hours.
I don't know your brother. I don't know anything about your brother. How
5.5 hours before they put up $1,000 bond.
Okay, and then they let you out.
Jail.
Okay, so you got a right to charge him for 1 day's imprisonment, okay?
Yeah.
All right, well, we first got to get you an attorney. We definitely got to sit down and you got to write your whole story out, at least cover 3 or 4 pages, because I'm going to tell you a secret. 2 years from now, you aren't going to remember all this stuff.
Right.
So you need to do it now while it's fresh in your mind, you understand?
Right.
And you'll be amazed when you sit down to write it how many things you forget and have to go back and change it because it's been 6 or 8 months already, you understand?
Right.
Your mind just isn't going to remember this. 2 years from now, you aren't going to remember nothing. So the best thing I can tell people is to make a diary, keep a little diary. Everything that comes up about this case, write it down in the diary with the date and the time. They hate that when you get up on the stand and they start questioning, you open your little diary and you, well, I have to check my records here. They say, oh, shoot, this guy keeps a diary. My God, we're screwed, you know. And they're never going to remember everything, but you'll have all the facts right there in your little book. You know what I'm saying? So I recommend you do that. You keep a little diary and write down everything.
Okay.
Now, we've got to get you an attorney, and then let's see what we can do about getting you some restitution or a possible lawsuit for your civil rights violations and how much it would cost to do that, okay?
Okay.
Probably going to be a couple $1,000s, okay?
Okay.
At least to sit down and look at it, right?
All right. I just hated
That's
to
what I
hire an
recommend
attorney.
you do.
You what?
I'm saying that you should at least consult with an attorney. You may not hire him, but you need to consult with one. And most attorneys will give you an hour or so for nothing, just to tell you what your options are. Okay.
Okay.
And that would be an intelligent way to at least approach this thing and decide what you're going to do, because you don't want to just do this on a wish and a prayer and a hope.
Yeah. Now I got to go and get my neck fixed because they broke.
Well, I'm going to give you some tips right now. I'm going to give you some tips right now. One of the things that you can do, believe it or not, is to lie perfectly flat on a floor. Now, I'm an old paratrooper. I've landed in trees in the middle of the night. Trust me.
Yeah, I know. Chew-hoy.
I've been busted up a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I know what you can do to help yourself. Lay flat on the floor, flat on a hard floor. Bend your knees up on a 45-degree angle. And what I want you to do is start out slow, and I want you to pick your leg up. Start with your right leg. Pick your leg up and let it fall back down. Pick it up and let it fall back down. Do that 25 times on your right leg, and go do it 25 times on your left leg. Then rest a little bit, and then do it again. Now, what am I telling you to do here? Actually, laying flat on the floor will help stretch out your back and possibly unpinch that nerve that you say is pinched, okay?
We need you to make a video, Constitution Man.
Yeah, I should do that. But I'm telling you, that will stretch your back out and possibly undo the pinched nerve. And you can do that yourself, and it does it in a way that's not so stressful that you're going to injure yourself worse. Do you understand?
Yeah. It's a pinched nerve in my neck.
Well, I understand that it's in your neck, but I'm trying to teach you how to do something that you won't believe how good you feel after you do this. You get about, now me, I'm up to 3,000 times a side. I'll do 3,000 leg lifts right and 3,000 left, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, my legs are so strong now you cannot believe, okay? But it takes away pain. It helps your sacroiliac. It helps the nerve connection between your buttocks and your spine, okay? It stretches out that, you know how, especially if you're up in age and you got maybe a little pot belly and you kind of hang over the belt line a little bit and what have you, that's really hard on your back, okay? Now, those nerves and those muscles around the gluteus maximus, which is your buttocks, okay, can really get whacked out. And by just laying flat on the floor and doing this simple little exercise, you would be amazed how it helps your back. It'll help you sleep. It'll help your legs. It'll help all kind of problems. It increases your circulation on your legs. And you cannot believe that sometimes it may actually, if you're laying flat on the floor, it may take that nerve in your neck and be able to stretch that spine out. You don't see, until you look at the action of you doing this, you won't understand, okay?
Yeah, I know what you're
After
talking
you
about.
look at
I've
it
done it before.
for a while and you realize, my God, this really feels good. Hey, you know, my back is really loose now, and it was just tight as a damn drum, you know?
Right.
And you'll find that possibly you can relieve a lot of that back pain, okay?
Okay.
So I'm telling you this as a friend, as somebody who has crashed through the trees at 60 miles an hour in the middle of the night and hit every branch all the way to the ground, 300 feet. Bump, to bump, to bump, to bump, to bump, to bump. And boy, I busted my legs up 6 times. So I'm telling you, my girlfriend used to get so tense with me, and then I'd come back and I'd have casts right to my ass, you know, and I'd come to the horse. And her second in command would go, uh-oh, girl, he did it again. This time he broke both them suckers, you know. Oh, you crazy hillbilly, you're going to kill yourself. Don't you know when the two things come out of the sky, bird shit and fools, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it works, so try it, okay?
Yep.
And I wish you luck.
Chew-hoy, buddy. Edie Mao.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Edie Frankenmao is what they
Yeah, I'm out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks, Angela.
Bye. You're welcome.
I love
Okay, we have one more. Tool Pat, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. We hear you. We hear you.
I'm in Louisville. I have a friend of mine that was getting divorced and going through foreclosure, and 35 years old. And at his work, he fell in love with all during this, fell in love with an 18-year-old and girl, and he was going to. He told the employees he was going to her house and put a radio and play love songs out in the street and build a fire in this fireplace to show his love for her. And somebody at the work called the parents, and they notified a neighbor that was an off-duty cop. The cop came out there. He was just getting out of his car. He didn't do anything. And the guy walked up and asked him and said, "Are you Patrick?" And he said, "Yeah." He jumped on him, threw him to the ground. He was, and put a gun to his head, so I'm going to blow your brains out. And then he called the suburb police, and they came out and arrested him, threw him in jail. My point is they should have taken him to a mental hospital.
We can get into shoulda, woulda, coulda all night here. You understand that, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is kind of like going to one of these bars and you put your quarter in, and then you got to lower the crane and pick up the little Cupid doll and then try and bring it over the chute and drop it in the hole, and you got no chance of doing any of those things. I don't care, because that guy stuffed those dolls in there so tight you couldn't get them out if you could climb in the top and pull them out yourself, because they make sure you're not. In other words, the game is stacked. You understand? And don't forget, the crane doesn't really grab really hard, so you're just wasting a quarter. You know what I'm saying? But you feel like you're trying to do this, and you're really trying. And I watched plenty of persons try this. This is a similar case here, and you're trying to put together the total package here as best you can as told to you, and you're only getting one side, okay? So let me do this with you. What is your exact question? You want to get this guy some help? Is that it?
Well, they threw him in jail. He's still on home incarceration. It took almost 2 years of his life, and
really?
They didn't read his constitutional rights. And
okay. Now, let me ask you a question. How old is this girl again?
The girl was 18 at the time. She's about 20 now.
Are you absolutely sure she wasn't 16? And
yeah, she was 18 at the time.
She was 18? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if she was 18, she could legally be dated, okay? And they can't charge him with child molestation, you understand, or child abuse. The next
point is, there was no injured party, no damaged property.
I'm well aware of what you're saying. I'm also well aware this police officer was interposing himself in a problem that wasn't even his problem. And he probably was doing it as a favor to the parents. I don't know, okay? And maybe he grew up with this girl and he really liked this girl himself. I mean, there could be a bunch of scenarios here going at the same time, okay? I don't know what his interest in the case was, okay? Technically, he had no authority to do that. He certainly had no authority to brandish a firearm, okay? Now, I don't know that your friend didn't threaten him either, you understand? I don't know any of this stuff because I wasn't there, okay? Usually, when you get between a man and a woman, and they have any feelings for each other, every cop knows that you're really walking on a thin rope here and thin ice, because that woman could be mad right now and pissed at the husband or boyfriend, but then if you jump on him, she'll stab you in the back with a butcher knife. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like.
Well, he was friends. He was friends with the girl.
He was friends with the girl.
Yeah,
okay.
He was well acquainted with her.
The cop was.
No, my friend was.
Your friend was, okay. So they had a relationship for sure. In other words,
not a real relationship, but just talking at work and back and forth and.
Okay, all right. So he went over there and he was going to date her, or at least visit her, and this cop.
No, he was just going to build this a portable fireplace out in front of her in the street. And leave this expensive Sony radio there with love songs playing on it. I mean, he was clearly out of his mind. I mean, everybody at work knows he was.
Every guy goes through this when they're in love. They do crazy things, and sometimes we.
It was like a meltdown that airplane pilot did here recently.
Well, what am I seeing? He's charged with though. What is he actually charged with?
Oh well.
Disorderly? Was he a disorderly person?
Well, at the time he was hyper, you know, and the cop jumped on him and threw him. He resisted a little bit, and they charged him with a whole bunch of charges.
Well, I'm sure, and he was probably just crazy in love, right?
Yeah, but he was out of his mind. He was incompetent at the time, and my point is they should have taken him to a mental hospital.
Had he been drinking?
No.
Yeah. Do you know if he was drinking?
No, there's no drinking at all. He wasn't charged with drinking. He wasn't charged with drugs or anything.
Okay. How well do you know this guy? Is he a really good friend of yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he ever have a history of doing anything like this before, to your knowledge?
No.
Okay. He just took a fancy for this girl and was just going to go down and kick up his heels a little bit, and maybe.
Yeah, he was still in the divorce and foreclosure and all the stress and very little money, and he just kind of took a liking to this girl, and I just.
Well, I see a bunch of things going on here. The parents and the neighbor actually put their nose in where it didn't really belong. I can see that. But I can also see that this guy probably was in a weakened condition mentally from all the stress and the stuff he'd been put through, and he was just, you know, acting the fool for the day, so to speak, you know. And all of a sudden, all these things, and the guy probably went over there to run him off, and he wasn't running off, and the next thing you know, they got in a physical, okay? And the next thing you know, that cop called his buddies at the local police, and they came out and false arrested him and probably took him down and beat him up again. You see what I'm saying? Now, you're saying they kept him in jail for 2 years? Hello? Are you there?
Where'd he go?
I don't know. Hello? Earth calling the moon, over.
Where'd you go? I guess he...
Well, you can understand.
Wait, there he is. He got muted. Toolpat, are you there?
All right,
yeah, I'm there.
Okay,
Right.
did you mute yourself out or something? Or?
I don't know what the heck happened.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right.
So anyway.
Did they hold him for 2 years, is what you're saying?
A year and 4 months in jail, and they put him in solitary confinement for a while because he was so wild. And in jail...
In jail, they're not going to screw with you. They'll just throw you in the hole.
Yeah. In jail, there was a sex offender that was making advances to him, and he got in a fight with him and beat him up and put him in the hospital. And they charged him for that.
Yeah, well, see, that's the problem. When you get in those circumstances, you can get in a lot more trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the problem, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think this guy would want to fight and do something about this, or do you think...
Yeah, I've talked to a lawyer, and he thinks he might have a case.
Well, he does have a case. He does have a case for abuse.
So, and there's such a thing as a Twinkie.
He probably lost his house on the foreclosure in the process, too, because he was in jail and couldn't fight.
Yeah, he's lost the house, and his wife had a lawyer at divorce court, and she took everything he had, and the judge awarded him very little, and she took that. She took his computer. And
I'm smelling a rat here in the woodpile. I'm thinking that his ex-wife might have been friends with somebody at work that knew about the situation going on, who she set this whole thing up so that he'd get victimized and be out of the way so she could get her divorce through easier. Did that ever occur to you guys?
No. Somebody at the work called the parents and told him that he was coming to do something, but he didn't know what.
See, this smells like setup city to me. He was set up for sure. And he probably didn't have any other intention but just going over there and building whatever he was going to do.
Yeah. If that off-duty cop hadn't lived a few doors away, he would have dropped that stuff off and left it.
Yeah.
And been away.
This tells me that there was a setup going here, some kind of a setup.
Yeah. Like I say, they called him from the workplace.
Okay. All right. Well, he has a good case if he wants to fight it, but he's going to have to get an attorney and sit down with that attorney and try and work something out to get the matter heard in court for his side of the whole story. Okay. Now, you need to understand, judges don't like to reopen cases that are already 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
because the way they look at it, it's already been decided. And the water is over the dam, and you're trying to put the water back on top of the dam, you see.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
went to court with him
to fight these cases like this. It's very hard. You have to be persistent, and you have to really mean it, and you have to get a good attorney and somebody who's willing to walk you through the process, okay?
Like you say, would it be better to get an attorney?
Probably get him some. Yeah, he's going to need an attorney. Why?
Would it be better to get one out of town or?
Yeah, out of town. Why would it be? Why is he going to need an attorney? Because you've already showed me that he can get, out of control real easy, and he doesn't understand a lot of stuff of what's being done to him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he can be in another altercation or a setup. Now, do we want to send a guy out there by himself to get in the middle with these guys? No, he needs to have an attorney.
Well, I hired an attorney.
Have an attorney. Some folks need an attorney. That's just the way it is.
Well, I had an attorney when he went to court, and the attorney was telling me that there's nothing I could do about that, and blah, blah, blah. I can't talk to any.
Well, what did you do when you explained the whole story to the attorney? What did he say? Did he have a defense for the guy at all? Maybe the guy
No, he just assumed that he was guilty, and there was nothing you could do. And
guilty of what? Going over to see a girl? I mean, there's a whole lot of guys that do that every day.
I guess he was so wild and upset that when the cops jumped on him, he probably
they probably thought
they got him for arresting
something.
Oh yeah, they charged him with stalking, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct.
Well, they threw the book at him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he acted kind of goofy, so they thought he was probably strung out on dope or something.
Yeah, but they tested him for all that, and he was clear of that.
Let me tell you something. When these cops go out, they never know what they're going to get into. Would you buy that?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they can get into stuff that's life-threatening. I know a cop today that he never thought, he just walked up to the steps, and the next thing you know, there's a guy standing on the porch shooting at him. He ended up getting shot in the stomach. Luckily, he wore his bulletproof vest.
Mm.
But and he went home to his wife and 3 kids tonight because he wore his bulletproof vest. But boy, you should see the mark on his chest. Woo, doggy.
Mm.
Now, the bottom line is they never know what they're going to get into, and so when they go out and a person acts a little flaky or a little irrational or what have you, they don't take no chances. So I can understand them jumping, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it was totally right because they didn't have enough facts, okay? But do understand, when these policemen go out, they're not going to play with you. And if you act goofy and you do any kind of way out stuff, they're going to jump you.
Yeah, well, that's what they did, right?
And this guy ended up drawing his gun, and he shot this guy 4 times. But that guy shot him in the stomach before he got his gun out of his holster. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, he had brains enough to wear his bulletproof vest, or he'd be in the morgue tonight because it would have got him right in the heart.
All right.
Now, the bottom line here is when you're putting your life on the line like that every day, you can understand the cops jumping, right? And I'm not trying to justify what the cops did. I'm just trying to say you can understand that if a guy acts a little flaky and a little high-strung or what have you, and they might think he's on some PCP or some drug, that they might get a little tense. I'm trying to look at the thing like a rational human being, okay?
Right.
Now, I can't understand the thing going to court and all the facts coming out, and he really didn't do anything wrong physically. He didn't attack nobody. He didn't injure anybody. Why this actually happened? But I can see possibly that he was set up by some friend of his ex-wife who might have set him up to be jumped and beat up and thrown in jail. Okay.
And when you do anything with fire, it adds a lot more weight to the whatever conviction or charges.
And you know that some towns require you to have a license to even to burn your leaves. So if you start a fire, and you don't know.
You said he was building a fireplace out in front of her apartment?
No. He didn't even have time to get it out of the car.
Oh.
But I mean, that's what he was
a small portable
do, though,
fireplace.
Right? But that's what he was planning to do, right?
And a what?
Planning on building a fireplace in her front yard.
Well, I guess he had it already. It's one of those portable ones. It's like a barbecue-looking thing, only it's lower.
Yeah, it's real small. He didn't even have anything out of the car yet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So
That's
he was just going to have a
ridiculous.
barbecue.
Well, yeah, he's got to be able to get.
Well, he did something to get those people hyped up to jumping that bad.
Well, when the people called the parents from work, they said he was coming over there to do something, and they got all excited. And when they called
could you see parents getting excited when their little 18-year-old daughter is about to get involved with a guy that maybe is a little crazy? You can understand parents getting upset about that, right?
Right, but he was out in the street, wasn't on their property, and just stepped out of the car when the cop come up and jumped.
I do understand your side of it, and your side of it is an informed side from the guy's point of view, way after the thing happened, so you got the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
But when that cop came over, he didn't have the whole story, probably. He only had a part of it.
But the point is not what the cop did. The point is the guy's in the slammer, right?
Yeah.
And you want to get him out of the slammer. Okay, he did what he did. His intent was not malicious, in other words.
Wasn't
but he's got to be able to. He's got to be able to prove that, or get a lawyer to show that.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to share with you. There's nothing I can see here that would cause him to get thrown in jail like that. If the judge had been on the stick and listened to the whole case, why would they put him in jail? Unless they actually thought he assaulted those officers.
Well, he put up some resistance when they jumped all over him.
Well, come on. This is the 21st century here. If you start swinging on cops and beating on cops, they're going to beat the hell out of you.
But he was out of his mind. That's
I don't care. I don't care. If you swing on cops or you get in a fist fight with them, they're going to beat the hell out of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just common sense. That goes with the territory. As soon as you
they kill people all the time.
They kill people all the time. And after would they kill that one kid down in Florida?
They killed a kid here in California. Kelly Thomas.
But can't a cop realize that somebody's out of their mind and they're not?
No, don't expect them to be psychiatrists.
Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain something to you. You're a cop. You show up on the scene. All you can deal with is what's physically in front of you right now. If a guy starts acting real crazy, you understand? You're immediately going to go on defensive, immediately. You're going to be getting ready to draw your gun if you have to, if you want to live till tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start swinging on the cop or getting physical with the cop, they are not going to play with you. They will kill you.
Well, this cop got physical first.
Right? Do you understand that? I mean, you've lived in this country long enough to know that's the God's truth. There's been a whole bunch of people killed.
But let me back up here. My friend just got out of the car. He was standing there, and this unmarked guy, he didn't know he was a cop. He had plain clothes on.
I was just going to say that, and he didn't know he was a cop.
He jumped on him and started.
Now, let me ask you a question. Did that cop identify himself that he was a police officer?
I don't know.
You don't know, do you? See, you don't know the whole story.
Well, a mugger could say he was the cop.
Normally, when a cop comes on the scene, he will tell you, "I'm a police officer."
But a mugger could say that.
That's true. But a normal police officer will tell you that he is a police officer, and he will tell you to step back and try and get some of the story, okay?
But being off duty, I don't think he really had authorization to do that.
I shared something with you. A policeman is never off duty, truly.
Oh.
They carry their guns 24/7. Even their wives get pissed off for all the oil that gets on their shirts that they got to wash because they got their gun in their shirt.
Yeah.
The bottom line is they're never really off duty. If something is physically going down, like a robbery in a 7-Eleven or something like that, and that guy is off duty just because he's not on the clock at the police station, doesn't mean he's off the clock. And if he can get the drop on them robberies, he's going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the nature of the job, okay? Now, if that guy presented such a threat that he had to just, bust his head right then and there, he must have been doing something that was irrational, something that was going to cause that cop to react like that.
No,
well, he told me he had just gotten out of the car and the door was still open. He was leaning on the door, and the cop said, "Come up," and said, "Are you Patrick?" And he said, "Yeah," and jumps on him and throws him to the ground.
Okay. Well, then the cop is not a professional cop. He's a jerk, okay? And maybe he did abuse Patrick, okay? Maybe we can talk all of this stuff when we know all of the facts for everybody, and we can play maybe all night. But you know something? We don't have all the facts to make a determination as to what actually happened, number one. Number two, if he got thrown in jail for almost 2 years, there had to be some facts in there that we are not seeing where that judge made a determination that he needed to go to jail.
Oh.
And I appreciate the fact that he got jumped by some guy who was a possible stranger that he never saw before, never knew nothing about, and the guy maybe didn't identify himself as a police officer, because it's happened to me. I've been jumped by strangers. I defended myself. I beat the holy hell out of them. I didn't know they were undercover narcotics officers. I thought they were muggers. They told me they were mugging me. You see. So I know it can happen, and you just go on automatic pilot and defend. That's probably what your friend did, and that's when the cops showed up, and they just jumped on figuring that he was a crazy person.
Well, the off-duty cop that jumped him called the police department, and the regular cops came out and got him.
Well, but the regular cops came out on a radio call from another police officer in trouble.
Yeah.
So they were going to come gangbusters, weren't they?
Right.
So you see, all of these facts need to be pulled out of the closet here, and then we compare the whole story. And then we decide, because judges don't throw you in jail for 2 years just for, being drunk and disorderly.
Well, like I say, there was no drug. He wasn't drunk, and there wasn't no...
Right, so they didn't find no drugs on him. Now, how badly was he beat up? Does he have any medical problems?
No. I talked to him the other day, and he's perfectly normal now, but he's still got the ankle bracelet on.
Is he out of jail now, or is he still?
He's on home incarceration.
Oh, okay.
He's been on it for about 2 or 3 months.
Well, he's going to have to keep his nose clean and not get in no trouble. Okay.
No.
Now he needs to go see an attorney and sit down and see what his remedies are, and then maybe when he gets his whole story together, just like we told the last gentleman, he's going to have to sit down and write out about 4 pages of the whole story of what happened, and then get to a serious attorney who can counsel him and give him proper advice. Mm-hmm. And he's going to have an attorney because he's not going to be able to handle this. Do you understand that?
Right.
He gets too emotional. He gets wound up. He loses his temper. You can't do that with these people because they will get you pissed off, and they'll do it deliberate, just to see if you'll lose your temper, and then he'll be back in jail if he does that. You see. And he's probably
he can't go out and get an attorney now because he's on. He goes out for work release next Monday.
Oh,
but
he's got this for work release. He goes to the attorney on his lunch hour.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Where there's a method, there's a madness. We'll find a way. If he's on work release, he gets to go to work. Well, then he gets a lunch period, right? Go to the attorney on the lunch period and see what we can do. But he's not going to be able to do nothing until he gets out. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
Because they'll just throw him in and get him in trouble again. You see.
Right.
But really, this discussion probably has gone as far as it can go with the help that we can give him. That's the best help I can give him. And like I say, I don't have all the facts to be able to even, but he does have a case if he wants to pursue it.
Right.
But he will have to make a serious effort to do that, and he'll have to wait till he's out of their control because they'll just screw with him worse if he does it now.
Yeah, just let us know how it goes, Joel Pat.
Okay.
We're coming up on the third hour.
Okay.
And thank you. We're going to have to.
I hope that answers your question as best we can. Now you can see that some of these cases go way long, you understand, and they stretch way out, and then we don't even have all the facts. So you understand we are limited in being able to do things to help people.
Yeah.
Stretched out like this.
And some people do need lawyers, because they are just not.
They really need a lawyer.
I mean, unless you've had experience and been there and know how the whole thing works, I wouldn't suggest doing it on your own. I don't know. Maybe check out the Tammy Pepperman paperwork.
Yeah.
That might be helpful.
But do me a favor, if you're going to do it right. Don't do it screwing around, or you'll just get in more trouble. It has to be done right, and it has to be done by somebody that knows what they're doing, and you don't just want to go screwing around. And that guy there has kind of a short fuse, I can tell, and a temper problem. And he probably got confronted and immediately went to blows. And that's probably what caused the problem. So if he doesn't have patience and he can't deal, with these police in a courteous and rational manner, and he has to go to physical not in his best interest to get into confrontation with these people. Let the attorney handle it, because the attorney will be better than he will, and the attorney won't lose his temper. Okay? All right, let's go to the next one.
All right, that's it. We have no more questions, and it's 3 hours. It's 2 hours, 58 minutes into the call. I think that should be it for tonight. My son is waiting on me over here.
All right, okay. Well, you wish my very best to your son.
Thank you, and I thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. You know I love when you come on. Thank you so much.
I really do, and sometimes I'm able to help, and sometimes I'm not, and that's just the way it is. But I do try my best to help. Honestly, try and help. All right, and hopefully everybody will do whatever they got to do to get up to speed and to get the word out and to tell their neighbor and get their neighbor involved, and we can make a positive, shall we say, shaking of the tree to where they understand we're not fooling. We want you to fix the place, put it back the way the forefathers had it. And I want to thank everybody that helped our little gal with the horses that was foreclosed on there. They were most helpful. We actually got a positive result. The judge treated her real nice at the last hearing. So we're hanging in there. So she's hanging in there, and she wanted me to make sure I told everybody thank you very much for your kindness and your help. Okay?
Well, thank
Anybody
you.
wants to make a donation to help her, just get it to you, and I'll make sure she gets it. Okay?
Well, yeah, put in the subject line. Oh, no, I can't take donations. No, I can't do that. No, I'm sorry. Don't put me on the line like that. They can make it to you.
All right, make it to me. Put it in an envelope, send it to me.
I tell you what, if you put it in an envelope and mail it to me and put in the envelope, this is for Constitution Man, then I will put it in an envelope and forward it to him. How's that?
Make sure she gets it, and they got my word of honor. I'll make sure she gets it.
Okay. Thank you so much, sweetheart. You have a great weekend. Thank you.
Remember,
God bless.
This is our country. Remember, this is our country. Remember, and also we want donations to come to Angela to keep her on the air, because the bottom line is, you keep her on the air, you keep this kind of education going, and the more people that get up to speed and get this kind of education, the sooner we're going to get back to where it's supposed to be.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
It doesn't happen automatically. It takes effort of people like Angela and myself and others. And the bottom line is, we got to keep her on the air, so make donations to keep her on the air, because all this stuff costs, trust me, I know.
Thank you, and make donations to Constitution Man, too. He works hard and effortlessly.
We really do try. We really do.
Yes.
All right, I love you. Keep
a lot of time.
Back to you.
Thank you. God bless you. We love you. I love you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right,
Good night.
Care.
Thank you. Take care of one another.